Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei got Venom and Massive Harem Part 2? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the xDoug-Dimmadome-x for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. Let's start this video. It was the same night, and when Isay got back from the underworld, after having the fun of being on stage after being by the Mao, he had someone request for him for a devil pact. Like they actually requested him. His first pact, and he is requested. This was really strange, and even Rias was confused, but since he was requested, Isay said sure, why not? In all honesty, he just didn't want to deal with the embarrassment. He loved the Mao. He thought her was soft and fantastic, but it was broadcasted across the entire underworld, and it was right in front of Surzex. Another Mao. It was just really embarrassing, even though he loved it. Isay ended up knocking on the door of a mansion. The man who answered was a tall man who appeared around his 20s with an average build, black hair and golden bangs. He had a black goatee and he looked extremely handsome, like Kiba, though he had a bad boy kind of thing about him. Isay raised a brow at this man. Are you the devil I requested? Perhaps. Do you have my money? Isay said. Depends on the service you bring. Well, the service I bring depends on the money you can give, Isay said, both of them staring at each other without grinning. Well, the money I have depends on the service you bring. So if you want your money, you better give me some good service. Oh, I don't swing that way. Sorry, Isay said with a grin. The man began to laugh now, as did Isay. I like you? Most devils I know are too serious. Come in. Honestly, I became a devil without my consent or knowledge, but I have no complaints, I suppose. I just think jokes are the best way to talk. I mean, who doesn't like a laugh, right? Very true. Would you like a drink? Sure. What you got? I have water, some apple juice. Grape juice. Grape juice would be fine. I do love some grapes. Coming right up. So, are we going to continue this game, my friend? Game? Whatever do you mean? Really? I survived 2 nuclear blasts, though I'm presumed dead throughout the underworld for over a month, yet once I come back and have my big debut in the underworld, I get called by someone for a devil pact. That is funny because I shouldn't even be out for human knowledge. So I will take a guess here, fallen angel perhaps? You are smarter than you look. I do have a very high intelligence. I have a very high aptitude in science. So, tell me, am I right on the money with the fallen angel thing? Perhaps. What is it to you? Oh, it's not a thing to me. If you wish to create a pact with me, I am all for it. I just want you to know that I am not an easy target to take down, if that is your plan, but I do not think it is. I said my thoughts on who you are based on the facts of everything. So what do you want to do? Want to play a video game? I do get lonely. I am up for anything. I have to do what you want, don't I? I am obligated to fulfill your every desire, Isay said. Except for gay shit, I don't do that, Isay said, looking at him suspiciously. The man began to laugh. Wow, you really are an absolute delight. Racing or shooting? I do like blowing people up, but I do like running people over. Pick one. Shooter it is. Any special rules? Yeah. None of that quick scope bullshit. That annoys the hell out of me. If you are going to snipe, do it properly by hard scoping like a real sniper. You have some morals in your video games. I have morals regardless, though not as much as a lot of people, Isay said, taking a controller. The man gave him the grape juice and took another controller. The man and Isay began to play their shooter, coming out evenly the entire way. Isay was using a sniper and the man was using a shotgun. The man was very sneaky, but Isay was always cautious. The man had 12 black feathery wings grow out of his back and began to use them to black Isay's vision. You motherfucker! Gah! Not fair! Ugh, damn cheaters! Isay started yelling out, trying to see through the black wings, but he couldn't. Game over, said the game itself. Isay groaned. You bastard! You had to cheat, didn't you? I couldn't let a devil get ahead of me. The man smiled. I couldn't let the devil get ahead of me, Isay said, mocking him. Where are my manners? Issei Hyoudou, my name is Azazel, leader of the fallen angels. I don't care if you are the queen of Naboo. You cheated by using your wings. You are a meanie, Isay said, fake pouting. Azazel smiled and then laughed. Why, you really do not stop with the jokes, do you? I do if I really have to, but for the most part no, my master seems to get slightly annoyed by it. Not everyone can take a joke. They think if it's slightly serious, it's serious business. I know, right? Geez. I mean, I was having this kind of meeting in the underworld about me surviving. I didn't even know. What was I supposed to say, right? So I said, Isay no like camera. Isay said. I mean, that was funny shit, but she had to slap me in the back of the head with her power of destruction. It hurt. Isay said, sniffling and rubbing his eyes. You must have Rias Gremory as your master. I hear she's pretty. Drop dead gorgeous. Seriously, she's hot, haha. Oh. Do you know what happened to me at the end of the meeting? I bet it's a story you can't top. Tell me. Okay, so, Seraphal Leviathan, one of the Maus, right? Yeah, I know who she is. Well, she came on stage and began to talk about how I was so awesome saying the children, when honestly, I just did what any man would do. I guess I am not really that much into fame, maybe it's an accustomed thing? I dunno. Anyways, the crowd starts to chant, him. And you know what happens next? She is you? Yes, on the with. Can you top that? Haha, no. You got to the mouse, Seraphal with? Wow, I have some stories to tell you. Then you like girls, huh? Oh, buddy, you have no idea. Ever since I became a devil and living with 4 girls, I have been getting a lot more crazy in my mind. It is nuts living with 4 beautiful girls, who you can't even touch. Well, I could, but I probably would get the shit slapped out of me. Might be worth it, but I'd rather not ruin the friendship. Anyways, I liked it. I loved Mao. I was embarrassed, but it was fantastic. She tasted just like strawberries. Ha! You are honest and perverted, but you aren't extremely outward about it. I like you. You aren't so bad yourself, Azazel. I've been told to stay away from your kind, but I just don't see why. You don't have any ill will towards me, so why not hang out with you, right? You can hang out with me if you wish. I could use the company, though I am in town for something big, so I'll be busy. Does it have anything to do with Kokobile? Somewhat like that, but it's much more complicated than just an incident with Kokobile. Well, I didn't kill Kokobile. Just to let you know. I know. I heard about a giant mutated spider. What was that about? Oh. That is my pet Satan. He was with me in the nuclear accident somehow. He survived the blast and got bigger. He is like half my height, but 12 feet wide. Fangs and venom that can kill a god. It is my master's new rook, though I didn't tell her this yet, but he won't obey her exactly. He only obeys me, but I think it will be funny when she finds out. Haha. Well, I suppose I should pay you for your time, so what should I give you? Here you go. Azazel said, giving him a large bag which was quite heavy. Sweet, I always wanted a bag of rocks, Isay said with a laugh. He opened the bag and he nodded with the not bad kind of face. Wow, gold coins. Rich motherfucker, aren't ya? I get by, Azazel said with a laugh. I will see you around, right? Sure, later, Azazel, Isay said, drinking the grape juice in one gulp, placing the cup on the counter and leaving with a wave. Isay made his way home and entered the house. Rias, Akeno, Asia, Zenobia, Kiba and Kaneko were all playing a board game when they stopped because Isay came in. Welcome home, Isay. What did you bring? Oh. I failed the pact. I just robbed a military base, and this is a bag of live grenades, Isay said, tossing her the bag of coins. Here, catch, Isay said, running away laughing as he saw Rias catch it without dropping it, her eyes wide. Rias was shaking in fear. Akeno opened the bag and everyone began to laugh. It was a bunch of gold coins. Rias's face was priceless. That wasn't funny. Those could have killed us. You really thought I would bring home a bag of grenades, just to see your face like that? Isay said, laughing hard. He held on to the bag of a chair, as everyone except Rias was laughing hard. Even Kaneko was laughing, though she was chuckling a lot. Rias puffed her out in anger, and dumped the coins onto the ground. Isay, Who did you visit? Issei, however, was still laughing, along with everyone else, so he couldn't breathe. Issei? Rias demanded. Issei began to breathe heavily and calm down. Alright. The person who wanted me to pact with him was none other than Azazel, the leader of the fallen angels. With the mention of that name, everyone stopped laughing and got serious. Seriously, I am not joking. It was Azazel. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? Alright, I get it. He is a fallen angel, but honestly, I sense no ill will from him. He was kind and generous, though he is a fucking cheating bastard at video games, but he is a good man, okay? Trust me when I say this. I can sense danger through my spider sense. I sensed nothing from him that told me of danger. He gave me some grape juice, we played a video game, we talked about what happened in the underworld, we shared some laughs and I left. Nothing happened, alright? Don't worry so much about me. I can take care of myself, Issei said, going into the kitchen and getting a banana. Issei, do you know how serious it is for him to be here? What do you mean? He can't come around here? Issei, this is Devil's territory. He shouldn't be here because it could start a war. Well, that sounds like a bunch of bullshit. I would go into their territory too if I wanted to, Issei said with a smirk. Issei, do you understand that war is bad for the devils right now? Issei began to get scolded by Rias. Yes, I get it, Rias. If we have another war, the devils may get wiped out. I get it, okay? I still think it's a bunch of bullshit, but Azazel said he was here for something big anyway. Since I sense no danger or anything from him, I think I will vouch for him. He is here for good business. Just calm down. Please? I am calm, Issei, but it's just serious for a fallen angel to come here, and he was visiting one of my servants. It is just scary to have such a powerful fallen angel come here and mess with one of my servants, Rias said. Azazel has always been like this, Rias, said a male voice. Coming from the front door were xDoug and Grafia. Brother, what are you doing here? Rias said, kneeling with everyone. Asia and Issei were the only ones not kneeling, but Asia soon knelt after seeing everyone. Issei. What? I am eating, Issei said, leaning against the wall. xDoug grinned at him and looked at Rias. Stand. I am here for private business, alright? No need for this, xDoug said with a big smile. What are you doing here? Aren't the class visits coming soon? I am thinking about participating. With that mentioning, Rias's expression went south. Even if my Mao duties are rough, even if I have to take a day off from work, I wanted to participate in my little sister's class visit. Don't worry, your father will come over as well, xDoug said with a pleasant aura around him. Aren't you the Mao? To leave your job and come here, you can't treat a single devil in a special way, Rias said, trying to keep xDoug away from the class visit. At least this is what Issei saw. No, this is also my work. Actually, I am thinking about conducting a conference between the three factions in this school. I came to inspect the meeting place? Conference? Issei asked. Is that what Azazel was talking about that was so important? Yeah, you guys don't know. Well, the angels, devils and fallen angels are going to have a meeting. Well, judging by how I see you and the other Maos and Azazel, I am going to guess you are hoping for peace and will attempt to do so? I mean, Azazel doesn't seem like the guy who wants war. Honestly, I think he is more interested in women. xDoug laughed a bit. Yeah, that does sound like Azazel, but yes, we are going to try and attempt peace. Why our school? Rias asked. This school has fate tied to it. My little sister, Venomous, rises from the dead and gets to a Mao, xDoug said, teasing Issei, who went red. Rias had her right eye twitch at the mention. The other girls did not like it either. The holy demonic sword user, the holy sword Durandal's wielder, and the sister of Seraphal Leviathan all go their plus Kokabeel attacks. I mean, it's a gathering of power. It's a strange phenomenon. So you are the Mao? Said a female voice. It is nice to meet you. I am the one called Zenobia, Zenobia said, bowing now in front of xDoug. Hello Zenobia, I am xDoug Lucifer. I got a report from Rias that the holy sword wielder of Durandal got reincarnated as a devil and became part of my sister's family. Truth be told, I was doubting my ears when I heard it. I also did not think I would be a devil, but I am happy so far. I am glad, and it is great my little sister's family has a lot of interesting people. Zenobia, since you are my sister's family, can I ask you to support the Gremory household? Of course. It would be an honor to serve the legendary Mao of the Bible. I will do what I can within my capacity. Thank you, xDoug said. Zenobia went a bit red. Now then, since introductions are over, would there be a hotel somewhere? Isay laughed. No need. Sleep in this house. It's massive enough. That would be alright, correct? Of course. I appreciate it. Not at all. Well, it's late. I am going to bed. Pick a room, xDoug, Isay said, waving behind him as he left. Isay went into his room and prepared himself for bed when the door opened. It was xDoug. Would you mind if I slept here for the night? xDoug asked. Be my guest. I will take the floor, Isay said, going into the closet and replacing the sheet on the bed, pillowcases and everything, so xDoug would have a fresh bed. You are too kind. You are a guest. All guests should be treated nicely, Isay said with a smile, setting up his bed on the floor. xDoug turned out the light when Isay was settled in, and Isay curled up, ready to sleep. So, you met Azazel, huh? xDoug said, trying to talk. Isay laid on his back then. Yeah, was all he said. How do you feel about him? Isay yawned. Well, I think he is kind of like me. He likes girls, breasts, and naughty things. He has no interest in starting wars. He seems like a great guy, actually. I think he met up with you because he is interested in your powers, your abilities, and the fact you survived nuclear explosions. So he likes sacred gears, right? Does he think I have sacred gear? Well, I don't think so, but he does like interesting things. I see. So do you think he will try to use me for some experiments? I don't know, but Azazel is the governor of an organization with the power to affect heaven, the human world, and the underworld. He could cause a lot of issues, but he doesn't like war like Kokobil did. The fallen angels were the first to withdraw from the Great War. Ah, well, he sounds like a good guy. I told him I would love to hang out with him again. Ha! No fear, huh? Why live in fear? I rather face my obstacles head on. Ah, you really are an interesting person. I have heard that many times, Isay said with a small chuckle. It never gets old. Well, you don't need to worry about anything. I will guarantee your safety. You saved my son, so I feel like I owe you anyway. Plus, my little sister is having fun. I have never seen her as happy as she is now. I feel that is thanks to you. Look, I really don't want special treatment for what I did. I am happy to have saved your son. I would have done what you would have done or anyone would have done. I am willing to give my life for people who deserve it. So basically Rias and her entire family, you or your son, or whatever. I guess I just don't care much for fame right now. Maybe it is an acquired taste, but I just don't like the embarrassment, or the paparazzi hounding me. I just want to live. xDoug chuckled. I will give you something for your troubles of saving my son. I think it is only right. I will just have to give you something in the future. Well, I appreciate it, I guess, Isay said with a smile. Isay? Yes? Take care of my sister, Rias, from now on too for me. Of course, Isay said sincerely. I am her pawn, her servant. I hope I am her friend. Thank you. Good night. Good night. It was then, their conversation ended and Isay went to sleep, dreaming of naughty things with a certain Mao. It was the day after xDoug slept over. It was about noon and xDoug was already gone, and the ORC decided it was a good day to go to the pool. Isay loved to swim, though he didn't get much time to do it back in Tokyo, due to his work on his science. Isay was dressed in a white swim trunks with hairy spiders on it, all in different colors. He was in the pool, floating on his back as the girls were in the changing room. Kiba was also here, but he was busy in the shade on a chair bed, reading a book. He was also only in swim trunks. Isay. Rias called out to him. Isay turned his head towards the voice, and what he saw made him stop floating and thrash in the water as he sank. He quickly stood up and coughed out some water, his eyes staring. Rias and Akeno were there, wearing very tiny bikinis. Rias was wearing a red one and Akeno was wearing pure white. You could easily see most of their legs and breasts, as they covered only the bare minimum. Isay was slightly drooling now, But he shook his head roughly, ridding the naughty thoughts from his mind. Issei, what do you think? Rias asked. Damn it, I have gotten so much worse ever since I survived the nuclear explosion. Is this suit making me more of a pervert? Issei thought. But sweet Jesus, those girls look fantastic in those bikinis. Issei. What do you think? Rias repeated. Issei woke up from his thoughts and looked at her. He looked away and rubbed the back of his head. It looks good on you, Issei said, trying not to stare. Issei, do you like mine? Akeno asked, asking him cutely. Why yes, Issei replied, pinching his nose. Issei, I came after changing as well, said in a very cute voice. Issei knew it was Asia. Issei turned and he smiled. Asia was wearing a school swimsuit, you know, the one piece that covered the entire body? There was also her name tag on it. It looked very cute on her. Asia, you are looking really cute in that. It suits you well. You too, Kaneko, you look adorable in it, Issei said, giving them a smile. Kaneko and Asia blushed a bit, and Asia gave him a warm smile. Hehehe, I am happy that Issei said that. Rias put her right hand on Kaneko's shoulder, coming from behind. She then let out a smile. Issei, can you do me a favor? Sure, Issei said, stretching his body. Could you please teach Kaneko how to swim? Issei raised a brow and looked at Kaneko, who looked away with red on her face. Was she overheating? Oh, it would be Issei said with a smile. I do not mind. Rias gave him a big smile. Thanks, Issei. I will leave the matter to you. About 5 minutes later, Issei and Kaneko were in the water, Issei holding her hands gently as he strung her along in the water, letting her kick. That is how it is done. You are doing very well, Issei said, making sure to watch her carefully. Keep it up, Kaneko, Asia said from the sidelines. She also did not know how to swim, so Rias asked him to teach her. Issei agreed. Kaneko was busy taking small breaths, putting her head in the water and breathing out every now and then, learning how to swim. Issei was smiling, enjoying the time he spent with Kaneko. He loved spending time with his friends because he now had friends. He did have Irina, but it wasn't for very long. They were friends for about 3 months, then she left. Pua was sorry for making you help me out, Issei, Kaneko said, very apologetic. No, it is alright with me. I do not mind at all. I actually enjoy helping you out, Issei said with a big smile. Issei then hit the back of the pool, not paying attention. Oops, we have reached the end, Issei said with a laugh as Kaneko collided with him. Issei turned slowly, looking down at Kaneko, who was red in the face, which worried Issei. You are unexpectedly gentle even though you seem to have so much strength in you. Is that really strange? I have no ill will towards you. I would never hurt you. Are really strong people rough? They sometimes do not know how to hold back. Oh well, it is a gift from having Satan around. You have to be careful with small creatures. Including you, Issei said, smiling. Kaneko frowned at that, not liking being called small. I am sorry, I didn't mean it like that. I like Kaneko even if you are small. Kaneko is small, and I think that is best, Issei said with a big smile. Kaneko turned her head away with a blush on her face. Issei patted her head gently, as he kept helping her swim. Alright, Kaneko, let us see if you can swim using your arms now, Issei said, putting 2 hands under her stomach. She began to use her arms to push the water aside, as Issei showed her, and Issei held her from sinking. This went on for about 5 minutes when Issei said to do both at the same time. She complied and Issei let go of her, watching from behind her as she swam on her own. Don't let go, Issei. Issei smirked. Kaneko, you are swimming on your own, Issei said. Kaneko looked behind her and noticed Issei was not holding on to her, so she quickly sank and thrashed about. Issei dived into the water and brought her up, putting her on the side of the pool. Jerk, Kaneko said, punching Issei in the and sending him into the air, to the other side of the pool. Issei rubbed his and looked at Kaneko. She had a very red face, and a cute adorable pout. Is she overheating? Issei wondered. Issei now turned to Asia and began to help her swim. Issei helped Asia learn how to swim for over an hour, the same amount of time as Kaneko. Issei was slightly tired, so he was sitting on the steps in the pool, drinking some water. He felt someone stare at him, so he turned around. It was Rias. She told him to come here. Issei got up and walked over to her, a smile on his face. Yes, Rias? Would you rub oil on me? Issei blushed a bit and rubbed the back of his head. Sure. Issei said, his face getting red as the blood went to him. Rias smiled and reached back behind her. She unclipped her bra and Issei's eyes went wide as she freed her humongous breasts from the confines of the top, in which Issei shook his head rapidly, to shake the thoughts again. She laid down on the blanket, smiling. Thanks, Issei, Rias said as she laid her head on her arms. Issei gulped and put some oil on his hands before rubbing his hands together so it wasn't too cold. He then began to rub the oil on Rias's back, making sure he got her sides as well, though he avoided her breasts. He finished up her back and her legs, her inner thighs, which was the most difficult, and then her feet. He began to stop when Rias said some magic words. Issei, would you like to apply the oil to my breasts? Rias said with a hint of seduction in his voice. I could never. Issei, would you apply oil to me as well? Said a very sweet voice in a sing-song manner. Issei then stiffened up as two enormous things were pressed against his back. His face began to go red as he knew who it was. Akeno. Issei knew she was, as there was no feeling of cloth between their bodies. It's not fair if it's just Rias, Akeno said, with sadness in her voice. She began to move up and down slowly, moving her breasts against Issei's back as his mind began to snap. His mind began to race with thoughts of doing naughty things, and a voice in his head began to tell him to go for it, feel them up, but he fought it back, knowing not to do what was wrong. Hey Akeno, you know my oiling isn't over yet? And also, stop tempting my Issei like that, Rias said, lifting her upper half of her body from the blanket, sitting up on her knees. Her eyes were looking fiercely at Akeno, as if they were going to fight. Issei could see Rias's body and another part of his mind snapped. Akeno placed her face on Issei's should, her rubbing against his. She began to nuzzle him a bit, smiling. Hey Issei, Rias is scary. I normally run and get tired out, but I just want to release the built-up thing in my cute junior, Akeno said. Issei was held up by his arms, but his arms began to shake and wobble, getting weak. His face was red as a tomato, through a lot of blood was also going south. Issei was struggling to hold on, as the voice got louder and louder, telling Issei to lie on their breasts. Issei closed his eyes, trying to hold it all in. He had to use all of his will to just stay sane. However, his mind completely snapped. Akeno took the top part of Issei's ear into her and began to nibble on it, sending waves upon waves through his mind. He went to his elbows, no longer able to hold up his body with his strong arms. Issei was really muscular, looking really nicely. He did not have a massive body in terms of muscle mass. The muscles he did have were really well defined. Blood began to slowly drip from Issei as he was losing himself in the nibbles. Really, Issei is cute, Rias, won't you give him to me? In the future, when I am on my own, I want to take this boy along with me. No! That boy is mine! I will not give him to you. There is no other boy as wonderfully cute as him, though. Then it's alright for me to be affectionate with him occasionally, right? No! I forbid it. I do not want Issei to know any other girls other than me. But if the partner is you, Issei will become a beast. Aren't boys when they are beasts? If Rias is going to continue to hesitate Issei's chastity, I won't give him to you. This isn't a joke, Rias said, with a grim expression on her face. Issei was still under Akeno's fantastic body, but his face was contorted with pain as he held on to his sanity. By the way, Issei, did you get to play with her breasts? Did you get on them? Akeno asked him, while looking up at Rias with her defying eyes. Issei did not answer. Akeno, don't you think you are going too overboard? Aren't you forgetting you are my servant? Rias said, after her body began to glow with red power. She looked very angry. If you become like that, then I will be in trouble, but I won't back down, Rias, Akeno said with a smile on her face. She was no longer on top of Issei as her body began to crackle sparks. She also glowed with a golden aura. They both began to stand, both of them topless, and they began to look at each other, glares on their faces. I won't give you, Issei, vulgar priestess of thunder, Rias yelled at her. Isn't it fine to be affectionate, Crimson Princess? Akeno replied. Aren't you yourself? Rias exclaimed. If you are going to say that, I'll have Issei take my city right now. No! I will not allow that! Rias yelled out. Issei opened his eyes and weakly stood up, wobbling as he made his way away from the two girls fighting. He began to make it to the changing rooms. In the first place, Akeno, you hated men. Why of all people did you only take interest in Issei? If you say it like that, even you Rias have no interest in men. You said they all looked the same to you. Issei is special. He is cute. Even for me, Issei is cute. I finally met a boy that I liked. So it should be fine to pass Issei to me for a bit, and let me understand men. Akeno and Rias began to fight using their powers of destruction and thunder, destroying the pool side, which was located at the school, so other things were being destroyed as well. It was about an hour after Issei got away from Akeno and Rias. Issei was walking towards the exit of the school, heading home, when he spotted someone looking up at the school from the entrance. It was like he was admiring the school. However, Issei found himself looking right at the man. The man in question was a handsome young man with dark silver hair and light blue eyes. He gave a small smile to Issei. Hey, it's a good school. Could be better, Issei said with a shrug. Issei began to walk past him when the man said something to him. So, were you the one who killed Kokobile? The boy asked. Issei stopped moving for a moment and turned. Depends on who is asking, Issei said, raising a brow. He then leaned against the front gate. I am Vali, the vanishing dragon. I'm sorry, but I really don't know who you are, but forgive my ignorance. I just became a devil a couple months ago. You must not be the one who killed him. I must be wasting my time, Vali said, turning around and leaving. I know who killed him, but I won't be telling you who did it because I really don't trust you, Issei said with a smile. You look like someone who will betray someone, Issei said with a grin. Vali turned to him. You really should be careful with whom you speak to. As should you, Issei said, standing up straight now leaving as well. Issei went right up to Vali. If you are going to act cocky, you better back it up. I may just be hiding my strength, and you may find yourself in a very tight situation. Are you asking for a fight? I haven't asked a question in a while, so I don't think so. I was just stating a fact, Issei said with a grin. Perhaps you are seeking a fight? Issei said, walking away. I have no interest in fighting you right now, so you are out of luck. Laters, Issei said, walking away and around the corner. Issei was home now, so he made his way to the third basement floor. He walked in and smiled, seeing Satan happy and healthy. Issei quickly formed a magic circle, and out of it came a cow. The cow mooed and began to move around, so Issei left, letting Satan feed. It was the next day, and it was a school day. Issei was walking with Rias and Akeno in his arms, with Asia behind him with her cute pouty face. Rias and Akeno were glaring at each other, as usual, and Kaneko was walking with Kiba and Zenobia. They all split up, though Kiba, Asia, Zenobia and Kaneko all went with Issei, heading to their classroom while Rias and Akeno went their own way. Issei took his seat and relaxed in the chair, just wanting to go home. He had no interest in this class visit, because no one was coming to visit him. His birth parents ditched him at the orphanage, and the two foster parents kicked him out, albeit they gave him a Dodge Viper and a ton of money. So how could he look forward to it, right? About 3 hours later, the class let out an hour early, so it was time to mingle with the parents and friends for an hour, then it would be lunch and another mingle period, then the final class. Issei walked down the hallway and headed towards the cafeteria. There were drinks and snacks, meant for the parents and students, as another part of the mingling. Issei took an apple and some grape juice, leaning against the wall as he looked at the students passing by. Issei, it is good to see you here. Where is Rias? Said a familiar voice. It was Surzex, so Issei gave him a smile. I dunno, I believe Rias is avoiding you and your father, Issei said with a chuckle. You too embarrass her. Surzex smiled a bit. Do I? That is kind of mean. I just want to look over my little sister. Hey, don't take offense to it. I think all little sisters or brothers don't like their older brothers or sisters looking after them. They want to be grown up, you know. Surzex laughed. I suppose I know the feeling. There was some commotion in the corner, and it caught Issei's attention. There were a bunch of flashes from cameras, so Issei got up and walked over, throwing away the apple core. It was then someone from the student council came in. Hey! Disperse. Today is the day for displaying the classes to the public. Do not make such a ruckus at this kind of place, said the boy. It was Saji. When the crowd dispersed, Issei froze up immediately, after seeing who it was. It was Seraphal Leviathan, dressed in her Milky Girl outfit. Seraphal caught his eyes and ran over. Issei! Seraphal yelled out, giving Issei a big hug. Long time. Have you been doing well? Seraphal said in her normal childish way. Issei was frozen, trying to figure out how to handle this. It's so great to see my hero, Seraphal said, releasing Issei only to grab him and plant her on his again, shoving her into his. Issei's eyes went wide as Seraphal eagerly tasted his entire being. Rias was now there, and placed her hand on her forehead, sighing. She was right next to Surzex, who gave a small smile. I think Seraphal is kind of attracted to Issei, Surzex said. This is a first. This is really weird, Rias said with a sigh. Seraphal finally released Issei's and turned. She spotted a figure in the distance, Sona. Sona! Found you! Seraphal went, running after Sona, who turned. No! Stay away! Sona went. Issei was frozen like a board, though his eyes were blinking rapidly. Issei got erotically, once again, by Seraphal Leviathan, one of the 4 Maos who run the underworld, and once again Issei loved it but was still trying to figure out what the hell was going on. It was 3 days after the class visits, and Issei was heading towards the local shrine. Akeno called him early in the morning and asked if he would be nice enough to come over. Since Issei had nothing to do plus Akeno was always so nice to him, he would happily oblige her request. Issei liked Akeno a lot, though he did have a question he wanted to ask her. He never had the time to do it. Issei had heard Kokobile say something before Issei began his entrance, something about inheriting a power from Barakil. Normally, Issei wouldn't care, but Akeno was enraged at that point, so Issei wanted to ask about it. Issei made his way up the steps, not feeling any sort of holy power threatening to hurt him, so he was pretty cautious. His black suit began to form around his body, just in case. Welcome, Issei, said Akeno. Issei would recognize her voice anywhere. Issei turned and smiled. Ah, hello, Akeno, Issei said, bowing his head to her respectfully. Akeno was dressed in a shrine maiden outfit, and she had a bright smile on her face. Sorry for calling you out like this, Issei. Oh, it's not a problem, Akeno. Really. I had nothing to do today, plus I could never say no to you, Issei said with a big goofy smile on his face. Akeno gave him a big smile and they both began to walk into the shrine, side by side, together. This place is fine to walk in, by the way. An agreement was reached under the table, so devils can enter it now. Ah. That is nice to know, Issei said with a smile. Is he the boy I've been hearing about? Said a voice that Issei did not recognize. Issei had his black suit on, though the mask was not on him, so he didn't have his fangs. Issei turned to face the voice, and was surprised. It was a man wrapped in an extravagant white robe, with a golden halo floating above his head. He also had golden wings, 12 of them. He had a gentle smile and he began to walk forward, seeking a handshake. Issei took his hand, though he looked at the man cautiously. Nice to meet you, Issei Hyoudou, or should I call you Venomous? The man said with a bright smile. Issei's mask slowly began to creep in his face, Issei not liking the fact that he was spotted. However, Akeno put a hand on his shoulder. Issei, calm down. It's okay, he means you no harm. How the heck is everyone finding out about me so easily? Issei said, his suit disappeared into his right foot. Haha, word travels fast, Issei. It is to meet you. I am Michael, leader of the angels. Your heroic deeds are spreading like wildfire throughout the heavens. We don't hear much about heroic devils, Michael said with a smile. Issei sighed. Great, another one. Issei mumbled to himself. Look, Michael, I really don't like being celebrated for what I did. I would have done what anyone should or would have done. Are you sure the devils wouldn't do the kinds of things I did? It is rare that a devil, or a fallen angel, would sacrifice their life for another. Not to mention children who he had never met. Isay rubbed the back of his head. I see I recently became a devil, so all of this is new to me. I don't know much about devils, angels, or fallen angels. I was never religious. My parents never took me to church or anything. Well, foster parents. So, thank you, Michael. I only did what needed to be done. They were just children, and they are important to the future. I would gladly do it again. Michael began to smile happily, really enjoying the honesty of Isay. You are a very honest man. You tell the truth, regardless of how it makes you look. Of course, but I also make it swing both ways. I will tell you what I think about you, and if it's harsh, then you will have to deal with it, Isay said with a laugh. I have been told I don't have a filter on me. I can see that. Not many of you this day and age fear retribution for what they speak. Yeah, well, I don't really care how people see me, and if they have a problem they can come at me anytime, Isay said with a smile. I may not look like it, but I pack a venomous punch. Isay jokes. Michael smiled. Come walk with me. I would like to talk for a while. Isay shrugged and followed, Akeno staying behind. Why are you here, Michael? Are you part of the meeting with xDoug and Azazel? Yes. I shall be there to talk about the future. Ah. Peace, right? Of course, plus I hear you are supposed to be there as well. Really? I was never told this. Why do I have to come? No one told you? Not even xDoug? I'm not told anything. The devils seem to enjoy taking me to things without my knowledge. Even my master does it. xDoug did it too with the heroic welcome into the underworld, Isay said with a chuckle. I suppose I can't complain though. It has been pretty fun getting surprises. Ah. Well, from what I know is, you are coming because you were involved in the Kokobile incident. I didn't kill him, though I don't think I was really important back then, Isay said. Ah. So there was another person who killed Kokobile? Not exactly, Isay said with a laugh. Perhaps you will see him at the meeting. It's a creature, so it can't exactly talk to you guys. Ah, I understand. Well, I hope the meeting goes well for us. I am looking forward to it, Michael said, both of them heading over to a large pillar that had a floating sword in it. I can't say the same. It's not that I don't want peace, it's just the meeting sounds boring, Isay said with a laugh. I really don't care for boring things. I want to have fun. Michael smiled. I understand, but this meeting is very important. Yeah, I get it. I just don't promise to be on my best behavior, Isay said, sticking his out. Ah, so we are here now. Truth is, though, I thought of awarding you this, Michael said, pointing to the sword. This here is a dragon slayer's holy sword, Ascalon. It was the sword used by St. George. Why me? Well, we are having a big meeting between the three great powers. I think it is a huge opportunity to cooperate between each other. I hear you already know it, but we lost our creator, God, during the last war. You have been misinformed. I never knew, Isay said with a laugh. But, as I said, I was never religious, so it's not a big deal for me if he is dead or not. Sorry for interrupting. Oh, not a problem. So you didn't know? Well, oopsie. Anyways, even the devils lost their previous leaders in the last war. Only the fallen angels have retained their leaders. Azazel doesn't want to cause wars, so this is a chance. A chance to get rid of the useless battles between us. If small-scale battles continue, the three great powers may end up getting destroyed. Even if that isn't the case, other powers may invade, so this sword is a present from me to the devil's side. I also sent presents to the fallen angel side. I have also received the holy demonic swords from the devil's side as well, so we are quite grateful. Anyways, because you are quite the celebrity, I wanted to award you this, as a present to the devils, Michael said, all while smiling. I also thought that this may come in handy against dangerous opponents in the future. Isay smiled. Michael, I appreciate the gesture, but I'd rather use my fists than a sword. I have not trained with a sword anyway, and I would become very weak and useless if I use it. I would like to take it, but I would rather give it to one of my friends who can use it better. Would this be okay? Of course. I like you, Isay. You are one of the first devils I have met who is so kind and caring, enjoys life, and doesn't care about fighting or anything. You just want to live your life. You are honest, brutally so, and you are willing to sacrifice your life to do what is right. So go ahead and give the sword to one of your allies. I would be more than happy to see your friends stronger alongside you. Well, I will love to take the present from you, Michael. I consider it an honor to meet you, Issei said, bowing his head respectfully. Michael smiled. I have high hopes for you. I am placing my hopes in you, Issei, so we can all hold our hands together like we did a long time ago, when the two dragons entered the battlefield, Michael said, putting his hand out for another handshake. Issei took his hand and shook it. I hope to live up to your expectations. It was really great meeting you. Ah, that was mine, Issei. Well, it's time for me to go, Michael said, turning to leave. Michael? Yes? I want to ask a request of you. I know it is rude, but it's something I have been wanting for a while. Let us hear it after the conference, okay? I will definitely hear it. Don't worry, Michael said, giving one last big smile and disappearing in a flash of white light. Issei left the shrine and saw Akeno sitting on the steps. Do you want some tea, Issei? I would be most honored to have tea with you, Akeno, Issei said with a smile. Akeno poured him a cup of tea from a pot she had at her side, and Issei took a seat on the other side of her. She handed him the cup of tea and he took a sip. He began to look out, his face in thought. Issei, are you all right? Akeno asked with a smile. I'm not sure. Akeno, there is a question I want to ask you, but I don't know if I should ask you. Go ahead and ask, sweetie. During the battle with Kokobile, before I made my entrance, I heard something and then I saw your reaction to it, so my question is, are you the daughter of one of the leaders of the fallen angels? Issei asked, looking down at his lap. Akeno's smile began very cloudy, unhappy. Yes, I am. Originally I was born between the leader of the fallen angels, Barakiel, and a human, Akeno said, her voice slightly upset. My mother was a shrine maiden, and I heard on a certain day, my mother saved Barakiel, who had collapsed from injuries. From the fate of that day, I was born, she continued as she expanded her wings from her back. She had 2 wings, though it was not 2 devil wings. One was a devil, and the other was the black wing of a fallen angel. Their dirty wings, the wing of a devil and the wing of the fallen angel. I possess both of them, Akeno said. Issei looked over at her as she grabbed the black feathers of the wing, as if despising them. While hating these feathers, I met Rias and became a devil, but what was born was the wings of a fallen angel and a devil, a disgusting creature. Fufufu, this may suit me who has dirty blood flowing in my veins, Akeno said with self-derision. Issei opened his to speak, but Akeno continued. How do you feel, Issei, after hearing that? You hate fallen angels, right? They killed Asia once and tried to destroy this city once. There is no way you can hold good thoughts about them. Issei sighed and looked up into the sky. Issei would never lie. Yes, I hate fallen angels. I hate them with all my heart, Issei said. Akeno's expression went very sad, almost depressed. But I like Akeno, Issei continued. Akeno looked at him surprised. Look, Akeno, I won't ask for any more details about your birth. I just wanted to confirm what I heard is all, and I was worried about you. Actually, I am thinking I was an idiot for asking you the question. After all, I can be quite insensitive, I guess. I have the blood of a fallen angel in me, you know? Can you forgive me? Although I reincarnated into a devil, the fact remains is I have the blood of a fallen angel in me. I may have approached you wanting to get hated. No, that is definitely the case. I am the worst kind of woman, Akeno said, continuing with her self-derision. It has no relation to me, Akeno, Issei said, standing up and looking out as the gentle breeze flowed through his hair. He then rubbed the back of his head. Akeno, you are a very kind girl. You are a great senior, and I could never hate you. I definitely hate fallen angels, but I think Akeno is different. Even if you have the blood of the fallen angels in you, Akeno is Akeno. I have never once had thoughts of dislike towards you, even after hearing that you are part fallen angel. I could never hate you. I like you even now, so there is no problem, right? I keep going around in circles. I really need to get better at speaking. Akeno, you should understand something. I think if you are a good person, it shouldn't matter where you are from or who you were born from. That is why I could never hate you, Issei said with a sigh. He turned and he was shocked as he saw Akeno's face. Akeno was crying, tears running down her. Did I say something bad? Issei said, kneeling down in front of her, worry on his face. Akeno shook her head, smiled brightly, and wiped her tears. You said some killing words. After hearing that, won't I really get serious, Akeno said. She then grabbed Issei and hugged onto him tightly. Akeno? Issei stuttered out. Akeno put her face on his shoulder. She then began to whisper into his ear. I have decided. Issei, do you like Rias? Yes? Issei said, really confused. That's a given, she's serious as well, so legal wife is impossible. There is a possibility of Asia being the legal wife as well, so the first and second position can't be shaken, I guess. Huh? Issei said, his eyes blinking rapidly in confusion. Hey Issei. Why yes? I won't mind being third position. Huh? Third position? Yes, third position. I think it's a comparatively good position. Above all, there's the feeling of unfaithfulness, so it'll be burning. Ufufa Issei, is it fine if I spoil you more? Issei was unable to speak as he was just completely confused. What the hell was she talking about? Even with Issei's vast intelligence, women were still a goddamn mystery. Akeno and Issei stayed like that, hugging and hugging for over 30 minutes, but then it was time for the conference. Rias knocked on the meeting door, and she opened it, saying, "Excuse us." They walked into a large room within the school, which had a giant and gorgeous-looking table. It was very high-end and pompous. Surrounding it there was Surzek, Sarah Fall, Michael, Azazel and Vali. My younger sister and her family, Surzek said, introducing them. Noticing Sarah Fall, who gave Issei a cute wink, Issei quickly put his black suit on his feet and leapt onto the ceiling, standing upside down. He was not having any more erotic yet confusing encounters with Sarah Fall. Rias looked up at Issei, and so did everyone, confused on why he did that. Issei? What are you doing? Hanging around? Yourself? Issei said, cracking a joke. Michael, Azazel and Surzek smirked at this, as did Akeno and Asia, but Rias just sighed and sat down next to Surzek, rubbing her temple. She wasn't going to deal with this. Anyways, in the attack of Kokobile, they were active during the raid. Surzek said. I have heard the report, I give my thanks once more. Michael said to Rias. Rias bows to him, acting coolly. Sorry Kokobile of my side caused you trouble, Azazel said with a timid expression. Rias twitched her. Take your seats over there, Surzek said, motioning to the other members of the ORC. The ORC took their seats, those Issei remained upside down on the wall, though now he sat down. Vali was looking up at him, a curious expression on his face. Issei turned to him and gave him a slight wave, which was given back by Vali. Now that everyone has arrived, let us begin. Surzek started. It was then the meeting between the three powers began. It went on for about an hour, talking about this and that, but Issei was bored. He laid down on the ceiling and closed his eyes, taking a small nap. Azazel noticed this and chuckled a bit, which got the other members to look up at Issei. There was mixed reactions. Rias had an annoyed face, Surzek, Azazel and Michael smirked. Vali was still curious about how Issei was sticking to the walls, Sarah Fall was also smirking, and the other ORCs were smiling but shaking their heads. Issei was really an interesting existence. Now then, Rias, could you speak about the incident a few days before? Yes, Lucifer, Rias said, bowing. Kokobile attacked that night, wanting to cause Ragnarok, so we went to battle against him. He wanted to draw out Surzek. However, that is when Issei returned. Issei returned and he brought his new friend, my newest rook, and the rook slayed Kokobile very quickly. That is all I have to speak of for this matter, Rias said, bowing to everyone. Interesting, who is this new rook? Surzek asked. He was genuinely curious. So was Azazel and Michael. However, Issei was the one to speak up. He is currently at my house. It is a very deadly creature that can slay a god. Rias, I was going to have you find out on your own, but he doesn't listen to you. He only obeys me. However, he will do what you say as long as I say it's okay to listen to you for the moment, or whatever. Rias sighed. I expected as much. Michael looked at Issei. Is this creature a threat to us? He asked. No, he will only be a threat to you if you piss me off and I tell him to sick him, boy, Issei said with a big grin. Rias face palmed. Issei, you aren't helping. Issei smirked. And you thought I would? Issei said, cracking another joke. Azazel began to laugh and Surzek chuckled. Vali smirked as well, but Rias was really annoyed. But anyways, Michael, he won't be a threat unless you make him one. That's fair, Michael said. Now then, Azazel, I know about the story of you not wanting to make anything big occur against us, is that true? xDoug asked. I don't have any interest in wars, I just have an interest in sacred gears, Azazel said. Anyways, how about we make peace? That is what we came here for, right? Azazel said. Michael was surprised but smiled. Yes, I also plan to propose peace to the Devil's side and the Gregory. Even if we continue the relationship of the three factions like before, it will become damaging to the world right now. We are the same. Even if the Mao isn't here, in order to continue the species, Devils too have moved forward as well. We do not want war. If we do another war, the Devils will be destroyed, xDoug said. Azazel nodded in agreement. Yes, if we do another war, the three factions will be mutually destroyed. It will then affect the human world as well and the world will end. We cannot do wars now. The conversation went silent now, and it went like this for a minute. And this is it? xDoug said. The VIPs let out a huge sigh, all finished. Michael smiled and turned to Isay. Now then, since the discussion has considerably been solved in a good direction, is it all right if we hear about the matter of Venomous soon? Everyone turned their gazes upward, looking at Isay. Ah, damn the spotlight, Isay said with a sigh. Isay stood up on the ceiling and turned to Asia and Zenobia. Michael, I want to ask you something. Go ahead. Asia, is it okay if I ask Michael about you? Asia was surprised, but she nodded. If Isay wants to ask about it, then I do not mind. Since I trust Isay, Asia said, smiling. Isay turned to Asia. Why do you exile Asia? Isay asked. Everyone put on an astonished expression. Isay, however, looked at him, determined. Michael replied with an earnest manner. I can only apologize for that. After God was killed, only the system to govern divine protection, mercy and miracles remained. This system was the system to perform the miracles that God did. God made the system and used it to bring about miracles above ground. To bring about the effects of holy things like exorcism or the crosses, was also the powers. Are you saying that after God died, the system had some trouble? Isay asked. Michael nodded. Yes. Honestly, it takes a big toll on anyone who uses it with the exception of God. With me as the center, every one of the Seraph was somehow able to start up the system, but it is lacking compared to the time God existed. It really is an unfortunate thing, as those who can be granted salvation are limited. For that, there was a need to keep away those people related to the church who can possibly influence the system. Asia Argento's twilight healing is one of these things. Asia is included because she is able to heal devils and fallen angels, right? Michael nodded again. Yes, if there is a person who can heal devils and fallen angels present within the followers, it will influence the faith of the ones around her. The source of living in heaven is the faith of the believers. Because of that, twilight healing is a forbidden sacred gear which can cause an influence on the system. Also, as an example of the influence on the system, Zenobia interrupted. Those who know about the death of God, right? Yes, that is right. To lose you, Zenobia, is a serious wound even for us. But apart from us, Seraph, and a part of the higher rank angels, there aren't a lot who still think God is alive. I apologize, but there was no other way but to make you and Asia heretics, Michael said, bowing his head to the girls. Zenobia began to shake her neck sideways, smiling. No, Michael, please do not apologize. I understand. I forgive you. Even like this, till I reached this age, I was brought up by the church. I somehow felt it was a bit irrational. But I understand now. The fact that you reincarnated as a devil, that is our crime. It's all right. I regretted it a bit, but the things I couldn't do when I was serving the church, I can do it now. It is making me very happy. I may anger the other believers, but I am satisfied by my current life, Zenobia said with a smile. Asia stood up and put her hands together. Michael, I also feel I am happy, since I now have a lot of important people. I have also met and talked with the Michael from the Bible who I admire. It is an honor, Asia said. On Asia's and Zenovia's words, Michael showed an expression of relief. Sorry, I am grateful for your forgiving hearts. I leave Durand out to you, Zenobia. Since it is the family of the sister of xDoug, I am at ease that it won't be used by those who do as they please. Azazel looked at Asia and she began to tremble. It seems my subordinates killed her while keeping quiet about it. I received that report as well. Issei looked at Azazel. That is correct. Asia died once, but they were slaughtered after I learned she perished. I killed them, then I joined Rias after she revived Asia as her bishop. Rias looked at Issei, giving him the look of calm down, but Issei said his piece. Azazel smiled. So you were the one who destroyed them all the exorcists, and brought down the church? Yes, in a fit of rage I destroyed the church. It wasn't being used for good purposes anyway, Issei said, closing his eyes, his fists clenching at the thought of Asia dying. Azazel put on a serious expression. Even if I apologize now, it's too late. That's why I am thinking of doing something, Azazel said in a murmur. Issei nor anyone heard it. Now then, it's time we hear the opinion of people other than us, those who seem like they can influence the world. From the invincible dragon, Vala, what do you want to do to the world? Vala smiled at his question. If I can fight strong guys, then it is fine. Azazel looks up at Issei now. Then, Venomous, what about you? Issei smirked. Me? Well, I just want to have fun. I have no interest in wars, but I will also not say no to starting a war if you mess with me and my family. Issei said, a clear threat to anyone. Rias looked at Issei with a stern look, telling him to watch his. Issei ignored her. I am not joking. If anyone here messes with Asia, Rias, Akeno, Kaneko, Kiba or Zenobia, you mess with me personally. If that causes a war between the factions, then so be it. I will not allow harm to come to my friends, as long as I am alive. Asia, Akeno, Zenobia and Kaneko were all blushed at this, so was Rias, but Rias was also having a serious expression at his claim. Michael, Seraphal, Azazel and Serzekas all smiled. I think we are in accordance then, Michael said. I am satisfied with Issei's response. I trust him. Everyone began to stand up, as the meeting was concluded, but something happened, an explosion. Issei was still on the ceiling, but he looked out the window, watching as many people kept transporting themselves into the school grounds. It was then that Michael, Azazel, Serzekas and Seraphal put up a strong barrier. An invasion. Looks like fun, Issei said with a chuckle. Yes, it seems they want to interrupt this meeting. There are always those who want war. I suspect it's the Cow's Brigade, Azazel said while looking out the window, with a serious expression. So what do we do? Issei asked. Vala? On it. With that, Vala shot out of the window in his balance breaker state, and went off to fight. Issei watched as he annihilated magician after magician. Rias, can you and your peerage handle the magicians outside? Rias nodded and left with her peerage, though Issei did not follow. Just as Rias and her peerage left, a magic circle appeared in the meeting room. Leviathan, Serzekas said with a sour expression. Out from the circle came a beautiful girl who wore quite a provocative dress. How do you do, current Mouse Serzekas? Said the girl. What is the meaning of this, Katla Leviathan? The members of the Old Mao faction have all decided to cooperate with the Cow's Brigade. We are taking charge in this attack. Katla, why? Serzekas asked. We arrived at the exact opposite idea of this meeting today. We've concluded that, since God and the original Mao are gone, this world should be reformed. Has Ophis seen that far ahead into the future? Though that doesn't seem likely, Azazel said. Katla just let out a breath in response. Aside from being a symbol of power, he just bears the position for the sake of gathering power. We've asked for his help to destroy the world and rebuild it again. We will the ones to manage the new world. Issei now had his mask on, his teeth flaring as he crawled onto the wall behind her, approaching her slowly. Serzekas, Michael, Seraphal and Azazel noticed him but said nothing. Serzekas smiled very sarcastically. So you are a gathering of fallen angel, devil and angel rebels who want their own world and a new earth that they rule over. The mediator of that is Ophis, the Ouroboros dragon. Katla, why are you doing such a thing? Seraphal asked. Issei's black suit began to appear on his body, covering his body slowly as he crawled his way on the ceiling, closer to the back of the girl. She had her back to Issei. Seraphal, to ask so shamelessly. You took the position of Leviathan from me. I am the descendant of the original Mao, so I was the one best suited for the position. Katla, I. Don't worry, Seraphal. Today I will kill you at this place and take the title of Mao Leviathan for myself. Then, Ophis will become the god of the new world. It's fine if he's just a symbol of power. The system and laws, the doctrine will be constructed by us. Michael, Azazel, and Surzex, your era is over. Surzex, Seraphal, and Michael all had their expressions darkened from Katla's words. However, Azazel was now laughing and smiling. Kukukukuku. Azazel, what's so funny? Katla asked angrily. Ha ha ha, so you people will reform this world altogether? That's right. This world is in decay? Humans are foolish? The earth will be destroyed? Azazel interrupted with a laugh. Isn't the world prospering right now? Azazel held his stomach as he laughed. Katla's eyes began to twitch. Isay was now right above Katla, ready to pounce. He was not even sensed, due to his spider-like abilities. He was on the ceiling, looking down at her. Azazel, you are the same as ever. Even though you have so much power, you are satisfied with the current world. Your goal is too cliché and harsh. Descendant of Leviathan, your words are just like those of a villain who is about to die, you know that? Azazel, you would ridicule us this far, Katla said, enraged. She began to explode with magic aura, her anger at a new height. Surzex, Michael. Don't help, okay? Are you saying you want to challenge me, Azazel? I have been hoping for it, Katla said, blood in her eyes. Katla, do you have no intention of surrendering? Surzex asked in a final warning. Katla shook her head in response. That is correct, Surzex. You were a good Mao, however you were not the best one. That is why we are aiming to be the new Mao. I see, that's too bad, Surzex said, giving her a small frown. So, are you ready to go, Azazel? Katla said, extending her hand to him. Azazel gave her a laugh. I never said I would be the one fighting you. Then who? Katla said, confused. Michael, Azazel, Surzex, and Seraphal put their S up and did the look-up motion. Katla looked up and Issei struck. Issei grabbed her neck and lifted her up, slamming her head into the ceiling, before dropping her. Issei roared out, his fangs out for all to see as he dropped to the ground. Katla hit the ceiling, then hit the table with her forehead, sending her to the ground in a daze. Ow, who the hell are you? The name is unimportant, but you are threatening the peace of my friends. But if you are so curious, my name is Venomous. Katla stood up and prepared magic circles, sending out demonic energy at Issei. Issei ran right at her, plowing right through the magic circles. However, the back of his suit blew out, though he was unharmed. The front of his suit was also unharmed as the suit transferred the magic power to the back of the suit. Issei charged right into Katla, grabbing her neck and her shirt where her stomach was, running her through the wall. He kept on moving like a juggernaut, running her through each wall. She kept on firing magic right into Issei's face, but the magic was absorbed and all it did was blow out the back of Issei's suit. The suit kept on repairing, and Michael, Azazel, Surzex, and Seraphal watched as the suit acted like a living organism, repairing immediately. What the heck is that on him? Surzex wondered out loud. Looks like a living organism has fused with his body, Azazel said. He did say he had an alien symbiotic organism fuse with his body due to the nuclear explosions, Surzex replied. They all sat there, keeping up a barrier, watching the fight together. Azazel, however, stood up. Mind if I go help your sister? Azazel asked. Surzex smiled and waved him off. With that, Azazel grew 12 black wings and flew out into the battlefield, destroying target after target. It was a bunch of magicians. Rias and her peerage were busy fighting with the magicians when they saw Azazel come out to play. They watched as he destroyed target after target, but then they saw a bright white light hit him in the side, an unforeseen attack. Issei threw Katla through the walls again, sending her through 5 walls to bring her back to the meeting room. What the hell is this guy? He is a monster, Katla said, drawing out a bottle from her breast. It had a black snake in it. She began to open it, but it was grabbed out of her hand with black webbing. It was Issei. What is this? Are you trying to overpower me? No, if you are too weak to fight me on your own, you don't deserve something to power up beyond what you are capable of, Issei said, walking right to her. She put both hands up and began to fire magic after magic at him, but Issei just calmly walked through it, his suit being blown off every which way from each magic bullet, but only from the back. His front was unharmed. How are you able to take these hits? It's simple. I am much more powerful than you. I may not have much demonic energy, but my physical capabilities are over yours, Issei said. He was now right in front of her, and he gripped her throat, lifting her into the air. Xerxes. Michael. You wanted to see him, correct? Well, it just so happens Rias gave me the ability to summon him at will. Issei snapped and a red circle appeared. Isay walked over towards Xerxes with Katla in hand, though she was still hitting him with devil powers, yet she was getting weaker and the blows were blowing off smaller and smaller chunks of the suit. Let me go. Please. I won't do this again. Don't kill me. I'm not going to kill you, Isay said, looking at her, his fangs glimmering as he smiled. You aren't, then let me go. Oh no, you are mistaken. I am not going to kill you, my friend is, Isay said. He punched Katla in the side once, then threw her across the room, letting her slide. Michael and Xerxes stood up as they saw him. Seraphol also stood up shortly. All three of them had their eyes wide open as they saw him. 8 red eyes. 8 legs. A massive body for this creature. 12-inch fangs. Immense physical strength. Satan. Katla slowly stood up and she turned around, looking right at Satan, who was in his threatening posture. He was standing up on 6 legs, putting up his 2 front legs into the air, showing off his fangs. Satan then struck. Katla screamed as the foot-long fangs pierced her body, and the venom flowed into her. She began to thrash and thrash, trying to get away, but it was over in 4 seconds. She slowed down and eventually stopped moving. She was dead in 6. Feeding time. Issei turned to Michael, Xerxes and Seraphol. This here is Satan. The creature that I was talking about. This is Rias's new rook, Issei said. He was with me during the nuclear blast, as I wanted to bring him along. So this is the new outcome. I can feel the power. He can slay a god, Xerxes said, surprised. Yes, he can. Though he doesn't attack humans or humanoid creatures unless I tell him to. He feeds on cows and other large animals. Xerxes, Michael and Seraphol took a seat, surprised. Issei? Could you go help outside? Xerxes asked. It looks like there is a major issue. Issei nodded and ran outside through the window, leaping into the air before shooting out a web at the barrier, using it as a solid object to swing around on. Azazel was on the ground, blood coming from his side. So you're betraying me under these circumstances, Vala? That's right, Azazel, Vala said, hovering above in his balance breaker form. I no longer feel her presence. She was destroyed, Vala said, talking about Katla. That is because I had her killed, Issei said, swinging in, grabbing Vala by the throat as he turned around. Issei swung him right into the wall of the school, before swinging back to Azazel. You alright, Azazel? I'll be fine, but you got a serious matter to deal with, Azazel said, pointing to the wall. Coming out of the destroyed section of the wall was Vala. He shrugged off some debris and flew right into the air. Ah, so you are not weak as you look. You don't look too bad yourself, Issei replied. Vala took a fighting stance, but Azazel spoke. When did you decide to do this? I got the offer one day returning from the mission to take Kokobile back. Sorry, Azazel, but this side seems to be interesting. So has the Vanishing Dragon surrendered to Ophis? No, I am just cooperating stubbornly. They gave an attractive offer. Wouldn't you like to fight against the Asgard? When they said that, I couldn't decline as someone who wants to test my power. Azazel, you dislike the idea of fighting with Valhalla, right? You dislike war. I told you to become strong, but I should have also said don't only make factors that will destroy the world. That is unrelated. I just want to fight eternally. I see I may have anticipated somehow in my heart that you would leave my side since the time we met. Till now, all you have ever wanted was to fight with strong people. Vala smiled, then turned to Issei. My real name is Vala Lucifer. And? Why would I care? Issei asked. I really don't care for your name or who you are. I just know I need to kick your ass, Issei said with a smirk, his fangs glimmering in the sunset. He means he is the strongest of the vanishing dragons to ever exist, Azazel said, slowly sitting up. It means nothing to me. He will see whom he is messing with, Issei said, shooting out a web onto Vala's foot and swinging him around and around, before slinging him right into a pole. Vala quickly got up and charged at Issei. "Divide," said the jewel on Vala. "It did not affect him, partner. He is somehow immune to our power," said a voice from the jewel. "What? How can someone be immune?" Vala exclaimed. Issei swung right at him and grabbed him by the neck before slamming right into another light pole. "It is simple. I am not just a devil. I am part alien," Issei said. Vala stood up and charged at Issei. "What are you talking about?" Vala said, flying right at Issei with a haymaker ready. Issei, however, ran right at him, jumped, and used him as a springboard. Issei then turned in the air, shot a web onto the barrier, shot another web onto a drain cover and swung it right at Vala, hitting square in the head, knocking off part of the armor. "This suit is alien in nature. It came from space. It fused with my body due to a nuclear accident," Issei said as Vala stood up, repairing his armor. Issei, however, was right at him, throwing a punch at Vala's face. Vala, however, put his arms up to block, but it was a fake. Issei punched him right in the gut, before sending a fist right at his face as Vala tried to block the punch in the stomach. Vala, however, ducked, but Issei sent his knee up, striking Vali in the face. Issei then sent a fist right into Vala's left, forcing him to stagger back and look away. When Vala looked back at Issei, he was sent flying from a vicious uppercut by Issei. Vala stood up quickly from the uppercut once he landed, but Issei right on top of him again. Issei sent a punch into Vala's left, then another uppercut before Vala could even respond. Issei was fast, and he was vicious. The armor on Vala was shattering from each blow, and it even penetrated Vala's body underneath the armor. Azazel was standing now, watching the fight between Vala and Issei, if you could call it that. There were no more magicians around, all of them either left or were killed. Only Vala remained. "Your pawn's power is amazing," Azazel said. "What is he?" "He is the first of his kind. He was bitten by a spider, given spider powers, then he got an alien symbiotic organism fused with his body, though this fighting style he hasn't used this before. He was more of the play with the opponent type and more dodging. He was not one to just attack and attack and attack," Rias said, watching with Akeno by her side. Asia was hiding behind Kiba, who was also watching. Asia was kind of scared. Kaneko was watching as well. "Perhaps the suit has changed his personality?" Azazel wondered. "We thought that too, but maybe you are right. Hopefully it doesn't affect him too much like how he acts towards everyone else," Rias said. Vala got his bearings and grabbed Issei by his shoulders. Vala headbutted Issei, who staggered back in pain. Issei roared at Vala, his teeth dangerously sharp. Vala sent a punch right at Issei's face, but Issei gripped it with a fist. Vala attempted another punch, but Issei grabbed the forearm. "How are you so strong? What power do you have? What are you?" Vala called out as Issei was beginning to crush the armor on him, the armor denting on his fist and forearm. "I was given the power of a spider. Spiders, for their size, are the top predators of their food chains," Issei replied. He then used his foot to kick the legs off of Vali, sending him to his knees, but with that Issei sent his knee right into Vala's face, which Vala stood up from the blow, but then Issei sent a fist right into Vala's right. Then he proceeded to hit Vala in the gut with another fist, then he sent Vala flying with another uppercut. Vala flew into the air and landed on the ground with a thud. "So I have finally found an opponent stronger than the current me. I guess he is worthy enough to see the Hakuryuku's Juggernaut drive," Vala said, weakly getting to his feet. His armor was mostly repaired, but his face mask was not. Everyone could see Vala was bruised badly and bleeding. Issei's onslaught was surprising. "Vala, it is not a good choice. You may not be able to defeat him in time. It'll all work out, Albion. I, who am about to awaken, in supreme justice dash. Don't act rashly, Vala. Is it your desire to be at the mercy of my power?" Albion said angrily. Issei swung into the air and swung right at Vala, however a single silhouette swooped down in the night sky. He landed right in between Vala and Issei, so Issei quickly changed his course before skidding on the ground. The man was wearing armor that would be worn by a military commander from ancient China. "Vala, I have come for you," said the young man. He had a refreshing-looking face. He spoke with a cheerful attitude. "Ah, Biko. What have you come for?" Vala said, wiping the blood from his. He was standing on his wobbling legs. Isn't that cruel? I made a long journey and came all the way to this island country because my partner was in a pinch. The other guys were making a fuss. Because we're joining together to fight Valhalla, you were supposed to flee and return right away. The mission failed, right? So what happened? Where is Katla? The boy in the black suit over there, he killed her, Vala said. Biko turned to face him, then looked back at Vala. So this is the boy who was kicking your ass? Yes, he is something we did not calculate. His power is strong and his blows can penetrate armor and hit the body underneath. Interesting. Well, your observation role is over. You need to come back with me, Biko said. So it's time. Issei walked forward. Who are you? Issei asked. The material on his mask was peeling off. He is the descendant of the victorious fighting Buddha, Azazel answered. Issei put on a blank. Sorry, I don't know that. I don't study ancient history, Issei said with a small laugh. He is Son Goku, the famous monkey in the Journey to the West. Still not ringing a bell, but I am guessing he is famous? Yes. He is. I see. Biko began to laugh at Azazel's words with a cackle. I am different from the first generation that became a Buddha. I just like to live doing as I like. My name is Biko. Nice to meet you. Who are you? I am Issei Hyoudou, though I also go by Venomous. Well, it was nice meeting you. See you around, Biko said before he slammed his staff into the ground and a darkness spread over the ground. Vala and Biko began to sink into it, and they escaped. We will meet again, Hyoudou. We will fight again. You are an opponent I plan to surpass. Get stronger, Hyoudou. Issei waved his hand, and like that, they were gone. Issei was no longer in his suit, and he turned to Azazel. You all right? I will live. You are quite an interesting character, Azazel said, now flying back to the meeting. Issei yawned loudly and he turned to leave the meeting place. He snapped, and with that, he sent Satan back home. Issei left Rias and everyone behind, not caring to stay behind. He was sleepy. Issei arrived home 5 minutes later and he quickly took a quick bath, washing off the sweat from his fighting. He then went to his bed, plopping down and yawning. He fell asleep quite quickly. Issei Hyoudou is Venomous, a creature of pure power. He has the abilities of a spider. He can detect danger. He can feel locations of his opponents through the air currents. He can shoot webs, climb on walls. He makes no sound with his movements, and his strength is immense, yet his strength was growing. Issei was sleeping on his back, though he never ends up falling asleep that way, which was interesting to note. Issei was beginning to awake, as something under the sheets began to wiggle and move. Issei's eyes went wide as he registered something was under his blanket. He froze, knowing it wasn't anything dangerous, but he was trying to figure out what the hell it was. What is this? This feelings, it's so soft, oh sweet Jesus, it feels amazing. Wait, I know this feeling, Issei thought. The feeling got closer and closer to Issei's head, and when he slowly looked down at the blanket, Issei's eyes went wide. He was correct that he knew what it was. Ufufa. Good morning, Issei, said a very beautiful voice. It was a beautiful girl with long black hair. Akeno, and she came out from inside the blanket. Akeno was the vice president of the Occult Research Club, or the ORC for short, and a third-year senior. She was one of the two great beauties of Ko Academy, and she had the biggest breasts of the two. Akeno usually wore a ponytail, but this morning she was wearing her black hair without it, so it was all over the place. Akeno was wearing a very thin yukata, so Issei could feel her body heat. She crawled right up to Issei and snuggled into his side, right between him and Rias. Oh yes, Rias was in his bed, on one side, and Asia was on the other. They were both just sleeping on the large bed, not snuggling up to Issei. Oh God, so soft, her breasts so nice, sweet Jesus. Do these girls know what they do to me? Sweet Jesus, she smells so nice, Issei said, his thoughts getting naughtier and naughtier. Akeno brought her face near Issei's neck, then stopped moving. I've arrived, Akeno said with her sweet voice. She then tightly embraced Issei, hugging onto him tightly. Chua. Issei's mind snapped at this, because Akeno gave him a on his neck. Akeno began to intertwine her legs with Issei's, laying her body almost on his, though she was also on his side as he laid frozen on the bed. Issei was becoming very stiff. Issei was enjoying this, as his mind kept roaring with the desire to attack her. Akeno began to intertwine her S with Issei's, and the scene looked like they were lovers. Akeno then began to make her skinny tips crawl up his body, forcing him to shiver. Issei's body is quite sturdy, thanks to you becoming venomous. A fufu, a man's skin feels better than I imagined, or is it because it is Issei's body? Hey Issei, does my body feel good? Akeno said, delivering the final blow. She blew into his ear softly. His right leg began to twitch happily. Issei nodded rapidly. Why yes. You fufu. I am happy. You can enjoy this body even more if you want to, you know? I also want to know more about Issei's body, though I say that, since there's a scary girl sleeping next to us, there may be a limit to it, but whether we get caught or not, this critical moment is fun. Akeno became quite erotic early in the morning, and this confused Issei. Is she telling me I can play with her body? No, she can't like me like that, she is my senior, and I'm just some nerd. Issei said. Issei was always treated like a nerd, so girls would never want him. He has been on dates before, but they were either dares or a single date after he helped them for a test. Issei was never one to have a girl like him, especially girls so pretty like these girls that surrounded him. Akeno raised her body just a little and hung right over Issei, smiling down at him. Her black hair fell all over him like a curtain, masking him in the silky darkness that is her lovely hair. Akeno then began to lean forward, getting closer to his. Though it would be nice if time could stop, but as expected. Just as Akeno's and Issei's began to connect, a very recognizable voice was heard. Akeno, what are you doing? When did you get into this room? Rias said. She glared at Issei and Akeno with very displeased half-closed eyes, her breasts in perfect view. God, these girls are driving me nuts, but sweet Jesus, I'm loving it. Ba da ba. Akeno turned towards Rias, showing off the fact that her hand was intertwined with Issei's. This is skinship. I thought I would have a nice morning with my adorable Issei, so I came in after all. Being in bed alone is lonely. Rias's eyebrows raised up at what Akeno said. She snapped. My. Since when did you become Issei's master? Rias spoke as her whole body trembled. Her was also twitching. Even if I am not his master, I am his senior. It is a senior's duty to be affectionate with their juniors. Rias slowly brought her face close to Akeno's face. She then spoke with a voice filled with anger. Senior, I see, so that is your reasoning. This room is close to being a sanctuary for me. My only absolute healing place. Asia sighed, I can't have other intrude here. This is my and Issei's room. Issei raised a brow. Wait, when did this become Rias's room? Issei wondered. Akeno smiled a little at Rias's room. Oh my, the young lady has a strong desire to monopolize, doesn't she? Are you perhaps afraid of having it stolen by me? Looks like I need to discuss this with you once more, Rias said, her body becoming enveloped in her crimson aura of destruction. She looked very angry and like she was preparing for battle. Oh my, you are releasing quite an aggressive aura for a discussion, aren't you? Akeno said, smiling. Her body also began to envelop herself in a pale gold aura. It's a discussion to the bitter end. Rias and Akeno began to glare at each other as sparks began to crackle all over the place. Another fight to see who gets to play with their junior. I feel like a pet, though I am enjoying it. Issei thought. On you, is it morning already? Asia said. She began to rub her sleepy eyes, after letting out a big yawn. Asia, you can go back to sleep, Issei whispered, gently stroking her hair. Ah, Issei, I will accept your offer and sleep while being hugged by Issei. Asia said, half asleep. She then began to try and fall back asleep, embracing Issei. God, she is so adorable, Issei thought. Issei slowly turned his head and then watched as Rias and Akeno began to beat each other with pillows. So they glow with their energy but instead result to a pillow fight, sigh. Issei said. To begin with, I hate how Akeno tries to touch my important thing, Rias said, throwing her pillow, nailing Akeno in the face. Akeno had her smiley face on, but her eyes were wide open. It should be fine if it is just for a bit. You really are stingy, Rias, Akeno said, picking up the fallen pillow and nailing Rias in the face. The pillow was brushed aside, but Rias's eyes were a bit watery. This house is mine, so I won't let you do as you please, Akeno. Rias threw her pillow right at Akeno. Wait, now it's her house. But I bought it with my money! Issei complained in his head, though he never voiced it. He knew better than to interrupt their argument. Akeno dodged the pillow then threw her own at Rias. Surzeka said that we should live together and get along with each other. This house is mine and Issei's. Both you and brother are in the way. I can't stand it anymore. Now she says it's mine and hers? Gah, women. You intend to ignore Surzeka's wishes. So you value Issei more than the Mao. Lend me Issei for a bit as well. No. Absolutely not. Issei began to sneak out of the room now, letting Asia sleep. He had to escape, he was hungry. Issei grabbed a pair of shorts then snuck out of the room. He ran down the stairs and made his way to the kitchen, where Kiba was. He was busy sipping some tea while reading the paper. Sounds like fun up there, Kiba said. If you say so. It's just all confusing. Only you can stop it, Kiba said. Huh? Nothing. Okay, Issei said slowly, before grabbing a bowl and some cereal. It was breakfast time. About 2 hours later, Rias, Issei and her peerage were in the living room. Rias and Akeno were dressed. Both of them had perfect hair, so they did get ready. Kiba was dressed in casual clothing and Kaneko was dressed in a cute one-piece dress. So, you are going back to the underworld? Issei asked. I'm returning home now that the summer holidays have started. I do this every year. Ah well, I hope you have fun. I will try to behave myself while you are gone. Say hello to Millikas for me, will you? Rias smiled. Silly Issei. You are coming too. Issei blinked. I am? That's right. Since you are all servant devils in my family, it's only natural for you to accompany your master. You are coming to my home together with me. Actually, this will be the first time for Asia, you and Zenobia to be visiting me house, isn't it? Asia nodded. Why yes. I haven't visited your home, but I have visited the underworld before. It's quite a scary place. Asia said, though the last part was murmured. Zenobia also nodded. We will spend the remainder of the summer holidays there until the end of the month. The plan is to train and attend various kinds of events at the underworld, Rias said, smiling. Issei sighed. Issei. Did you also have plans to go somewhere? Not exactly, I just don't consider it fun spending my summer vacation out of school in the underworld, training. Rias chuckled. Issei, there will be fun events too. Blech. Was all Issei said. He turned his head slightly, taking a look at Kaneko. Kaneko was looking somewhere else with very distant eyes. She looked depressed. Akeno, Rias and Kiba all chuckled at Issei's reaction. I'm also going to the underworld, said a familiar voice. It was Azazel, who was sitting in the corner on a chair. Where did you come in from? Rias asked, blinking in surprise. Isn't it normally from the front door? I didn't even feel your presence, Issei said. I didn't even feel your presence, Kiba said. That is just due to your lack of training, Azazel said, ignoring Issei. I just came in normally. More important, you are returning to the underworld, right? Then I'll go too. I am your teacher after all. How did you get in my house? Issei asked. And what do you mean, teacher? The schedule for the underworld is first a visit to Rias's parents, the introduction of your servants to the current head of the family. After that, there is the annual meeting of new young devils, then there is your training. While you are all at the Gremory house, I will be meeting with Sirs XGs, so troublesome, Azazel said with a sigh. Then Azazel-sensei, you'll be accompanying us, right? Shall we make the travel reservations for you? Azazel nodded. Yes, please do. It's my first time entering the underworld through the devil's route. I'm looking forward to it since I usually use the route of the fallen angels. It was decided then Issei was being dragged to the underworld. Issei was now riding on the train to the Gremory territory, which just left the station. Akeno, Kaneko, Kiba, Asia, Zenobia and Azazel were all in one part of the train, with Issei, while Rias was in another part of the train. Issei walked over to the window and watched as they went through some kind of portal, entering the underworld itself. It gave them a spectacular view of the surroundings. Issei opened up a window and smiled. He began to climb through the window itself, latching himself onto the glass outside. He began to crawl along the side of the train, heading towards the locomotive. Issei passed right by Rias's passenger cabin, in which she began to follow his body as he crawled outside. Rias quickly ran to the window and opened it, sticking her head out. Issei! What are you doing? Rias questioned. However, Issei was now on the roof, so he couldn't hear her. She closed the window and just gave up, seeing she couldn't do anything about it. The conductor entered her cabin and laughed. You have some really strange servants. How is he able to hang on like that? He has the powers of a spider, Rias explained. Remarkable, I have never heard of someone with his powers. Yes, he is a remarkable person, Rias said with a smile. I can't imagine life without him by my side. Ho ho ho. For the little princess to be concerned with the topic of men and women, I have lived a long life, the conductor said, heading into the next part of the train. Upon arriving to the large Gremory castle, there was a large crowd of people. Isay was relaxing on the roof of the train, when he felt the train slow down and come to a stop. He sat up from his laying down position and looked around, spotting all the different people in the crowd. The crowd went wild as Rias exited her cabin, followed by her servants. Welcome home, Princess Rias, said the crowd. It was apparently all the maids and butlers of the Gremory family. Hello everyone. I am home, Rias said, all the maids and butlers smiling. Issei ran off the train, doing a front flip and landing right beside Rias, who was walking to Grafia. Rias jumped in shock from Issei's sudden appearance. The crowd cheered at Issei's flip, someone putting up a sign with the number 10 on it. Grafia came by and looked at Issei. She just smiled and looked at Rias. Our ride is here. The luggage is already packed and ready. Are we ready to go? She asked. Can I just walk? Issei asked. I would probably be faster that way. Rias looked at him and sighed. Issei, just get in the carriage. Issei whined but complied. He climbed into the carriage, pouting now. Rias and Kiba followed him and entered his carriage. The other members went into the other carriage. They rode for about 10 minutes before arriving at the castle doors, in which they all dismounted. Coming out of the castle was a short young boy with the crimson hair just like Rias. Auntie Rias, said the boy, jumping into Rias's arms. Surzex was standing at the door, so Issei left Rias's side, walking up to Surzex. Ah, Issei. You enjoying yourself? Could be worse, Issei said with a laugh. I mean, I was dragged here so my summer will be spent at your home. I am not saying your house is boring, but I kind of have plans. Ah, well, I hope your stay here is enjoyable. Well, I welcome you officially to my home. You are always welcome here. Issei smiled, and that is when Rias came up holding the hand of Milikas. Issei, Milikas stated. Ah, hello there, Milikas. How are you doing? I'm doing great. That is fantastic. I am glad to hear it, Issei said, rubbing the top of his head. Rias, I would like now show everyone their rooms, Grafia said. When Rias turned to look at Issei, Issei was gone. Issei was already inside the castle, walking around. Rias sighed, but Surzex just laughed. Let him go. You do know he belongs here, right? Surzex said with a smile. Rias blushed at that. That has nothing to do with this, Rias said, puffing her. Surzex just smiled, but Grafia pulled on his. You should know better, Grafia said seriously. Out houts Grafia, Surzex said with a teary-eyed smile. Issei was busy crawling around the walls of the mansion, and every time he passed butlers or maids, they would say, Hello, young master, or can I get you something, young master? They would also look at him, trying to figure out what the hell he was doing. Issei was confused. What was this young master thing about? Was he somehow a master since he was part of Rias's peerage? He didn't know. A figure coming from down the stairs caught his eye. A beautiful woman with giant boobs and flaxen hair. Her face was just like Rias's. Her eyes were a different shape and was a different color, but her face was just like Rias's. Ah, hello there. You must be Issei. I saw you in the engagement party and at the celebration for your return. Issei jumped off the wall, then bowed his head to her. Ah yes, I am Issei Hyoudou. You must be Rias's sister, because it would be hard to believe that such a beauty could be her mother, Issei said with a smile. She touched her with a smile. Ah, to be called a young woman. It makes me happy. Haha, it is nice to meet you. It is nice to meet you too, I am Venerana Gremory, Rias's mother. Please treat me well, Isay. I also want to personally thank you for saving my grandson. Oh, it was not a big deal. I did what needed to be done, Isay said with a smile. Well, I would like to thank you anyway. Please, you are welcome here anytime, Venerana said, bowing her head to him. Isay bowed his head to her, respectfully. They both went their separate ways, so Isay was back to crawling around on the walls, exploring the castle, being his spider self. About 2 hours later, Isay found himself in the dining room. Rias and her peerage was there, and so was xDoug, another male, Grafia and Venerana. Ah, glad you could join us, Isay, Venerana said with a smile. Isay bowed his head. Sorry, but I wanted to have some time to myself, Isay said before taking a seat right next to Rias and xDoug. Now then, with everyone here, I would like to say something, said the other man. You are all members of Rias's group. Please think of this place as your home. If there is something you want, please say so to the housemaids. They will prepare it right away. I understand you are in a place you would not understand. With that, everyone began to eat. Isay already dug into the food, eating like a normal person. He was not wild, but he was not elegant either. He was not messy, of course, but he did have his elbows on the table. Rias smiled softly. Hyoudou, called the other man. Isay put down his foot and wiped his. Yes? You can call me father, you know. Isay raised a brow. Excuse me? Don't you think you are being too fast, dear? There is a thing as order first, you know. Venerana scolded. Why, yeah, but it's even crimson and black. Doesn't it make you happy? Two colors that blend the best. It is still too early to celebrate. You are right, I tend to be too hasty. He sighed. Rias was red and not eating. Isay? Asked of Rias's mother. Yo? Will you be staying here for a while? I guess. I am here until Rias drags me somewhere else, Isay said. I seem to be drug everyone now. Ah, well, that is perfect. I will have you study manners a little while here. Before Isay could say something, Rias slammed onto the table. Father, mother, I have been listening quietly until now, but what are you trying to advance while leaving me out of it? Venerana narrowed her eyes. She was no longer smiling. Quiet, Rias. You have already cancelled the engagement with Riser, remember? You should be grateful we permitted it. Do you know how much your father and xDoug had to do to take care of it with the other high-class devils? Your father even told one noble that my selfish daughter cancelled her engagement using the legendary spider. You may be the younger sister of the Mao, but there is a limit. Isay sat there listening, his mind thinking now. Isay was very intelligent, so it was hard to sneak around him. Isay was shaking his head at a thought he had, saying it was impossible, but he wanted to find out now. Brother has nothing. You mean xDoug is unrelated to what you do? Yes, officially, this is true, however everyone sees you as the Mao's younger sister. Right now, when the three great powers have formed the alliance, your position is even known by the lower classes of the other powers. You cannot behave selfishly as you have before, and above all else, everyone is paying attention to you. There will be no more of that kind of selfishness. Do not carry any spoiled thoughts anymore. Am I clear? Rias sat down in her seat, defeated. Ah, I apologize. I have shown you guys something ugly. So to get back on topic, since you have no experience in the upper society and nobility, I will have you go through some special training. Isay stood up. All right. So something is going on here that I have no knowledge of. So, anyone want to tell me what is going on? Isay asked. If it is what I think it is, I am about to get very angry, so I would like to make sure that I am wrong, of course, Isay said with a dangerous smile. Well, anyone want to tell me? I am waiting, Isay demanded. Everyone remained quiet. Rias placed a hand on his wrist, but he shook it off. No, Rias. Do not touch me right now. You seem to know about this too. Why am I not included? Are you telling me I am not important enough to know what is going on? Is this because I am some servant? Isay, you are making a scene. And you weren't? Your mother wasn't? I have had it with this, Isay said, walking away from the table. Isay, get back here, Rias demanded. He was making her look bad. No. No. You guys are doing the same thing you guys did in the past, and I can't beat anyone up to stop it. Marriage? Yeah, I know what you are doing. You are trying to force Rias to marry me and force me to marry her. The answer is no. Issei said. The answer is no. I'm sorry, but no. I am not going to be forced into a marriage, nor will I allow you to force Rias into a marriage. I really don't care about how you guys look. Love is what matters, not your social status. Issei said. He had enough. He formed his suit onto his body, leaving the mask off. Surzex looked at Issei. Do you not love Rias? Surzex asked. Issei slung himself up to a window in the large dining room. The window was high up in the air, more used for air circulation than something to see out of. What does my feelings matter? No one could ever love a nerd like me, Issei said, though he softly said the last part. Issei then was gone. He was climbing up the Gremory castle, his mask still off. The dinner table was in shock. Issei basically told them off, telling them that what they were doing was wrong. The head of the Gremory family, Rias's father, spoke up though. Well, that didn't end well, but why spoil a good feast? Let us finish our meal. With that, everyone continued eating, but it was silent. It was quite uncomfortable. Kaneko heard everything. She heard everything that Issei said, and she understood now. Issei was at the top of the Gremory castle, looking all over the entire underworld. He was very high up. Issei sighed and rubbed his hair. That felt good. Issei laughed out. I need to get away though for a while. I can't be around them right now, Issei said. He put 2 web shots out on the tip of the Gremory castle and began to move backward, stretching the web out. He was preparing a slingshot. He aimed himself out to the mountains far away and released his legs. He was slingshot across the underworld, heading right to the mountains ahead, wanting to be alone in the wilderness. Issei Hyoudou is Venomous, a creature of immense power and strength. He has attracted many women to him, but he has yet to realize it. He has yet to realize he has many women who seek his affections and attention, but he cannot see them as potential lovers. His past with women have kept him from seeing really pretty girls ever falling for him. This is the curse of the nerd. It was about 3 hours after Issei left the castle. He slingshot himself to the mountain across from the Gremory castle, and he went inside of a cave that was located at the base of the mountain. He ended up walking for 3 hours, though it was because there was many different directions to go, so he ended up getting slightly lost, but he was able to backtrack quite easily. Eventually, he found himself sitting next to an underground lake, fed by a large waterfall at one end, and at the other it was being drained into a stream. The tunnel that led to the lake glowed green, blue and red, all different colors. It wasn't too bright, but it did light the way. Issei lay down on his back, placing his head on a smooth rock. He began to close his eyes, wanting to take a nap. He had enough of a day with that dinner. He did love Rias. He did. He loved Rias, Akeno, Kaneko, Asia, and even Zenobia, even Irina, if you can believe it. He just knew they couldn't love him. How could anyone love him? He was just a smart kid. He was never good looking. What about him could they love? His money? He didn't know, but he knew that they couldn't ever love someone like him, but even if they did, he wouldn't know what to do with them. Issei fell asleep. Only the sounds of running water was heard. No animals, just water. Issei found himself in dreamland, dreaming of swimming. Issei loved to swim. It was good exercise, though he did not care much for pools. He liked the lakes, rivers and streams, if they were clean, of course. He liked nature. Plus, pools had other kids, and he was more of a loner kind of guy, so he did not like pools for that reason. However, the lake he was swimming in turned black and rubbery, so he began to thrash. However, he eventually found himself calming down and sitting still. It was then a face rose above the rubbery lake. The face had the teeth and the of Issei's Venomous. So, I finally awaken, said the face. The face's voice was quite darker than what people usually speak with. A good morning? Issei said. Funny, so, you are my host. Issei rubbed the back of his head confused, then he looked at the face better. Wait, you are? Yes, you got it. I am the symbiote that you fused with due to the nuclear accident. You can call me toxic. How I call myself Venomous thanks to you. Close enough. It seems due to this cavern being radioactive, I have awakened. I was put asleep due to the nuclear accident in the first place. Interesting that the same thing that put me to sleep woke me up. So, what is your name? Issei Hyoudou. I see. What are you exactly? Your species would call me an alien. I come from a distant planet, though it was dying when I left. The sun was getting ready to go supernova, so I escaped our planet's destruction. I can only live when I am attached to a living host, so you can consider me somewhat like a parasite. I live off of your life, though I don't drain it. So, basically a mutual symbiotic relationship? Exactly. I do not harm my hosts, as what is the point of that? I want to live, so I need a host to live with. I do come with benefits though, just as you benefit me. I enhance your strength and basically enhance your entire being. Though, I see my host is quite powerful to begin with. I can access your memory, so I gain knowledge base from you. Human yet a devil? This is a strange planet. You're telling me and you haven't seen anything yet. You haven't seen Earth women seriously. It is like they are from a different planet, Isay said with a laugh. Interesting, yet you have fallen for several Earth females. Why do you not make a move? Is it because of your past with the female species? Toxic asked. Yeah. I see. So you have been scarred by these women. Can we not talk about them anymore? What can you tell me about what I should expect being infused with you? Well, you can never get rid of me now, but you can expect your strength and all your abilities enhanced. You should be smarter as well. I can form a suit of armor around you, but I see you noticed it. We split the pain, so you are able to fight longer if needed. The armor will protect you against all forces, holy or whatever, but the armor will only protect you against a certain amount of power. As you noticed versus the one devil girl, the armor will take the blow, making sure you are uninjured. However, if the attack is strong enough, the armor will not be enough. Keep that in mind. You will have protection against the holy power, as my body is not weak against holy, but if the holy power is strong enough, you can die if you are hit by it, and the armor wasn't strong enough to hold up. However, the armor will absorb a lot of the power, so you will always be hit by a weaker amount of the power. You shall also find your personality has been tweaked a bit. Define tweaked. You will find that you get hornier easier and will crave UAL contact more, though I know you have felt it. You will find that in combat, you will attack more vicious if you go on the offensive, but you won't be stupid or anything. Though you do not have to go on the offensive, and do what you did to that riser fellow. So nothing bad, though I already suffer with the first one. Well, that is your problem to work on. Not mine. Anything else you can think to tell me? Yes, a really good one to know. You can use my body to attack as well. You can use it to ensnare or grab something, or anything you can imagine. I can be sharp or blunt. Keep that in mind. Oh, I like it. So, how do you feel about being infused with me? I don't have a problem with it. You saved my life, so I feel indebted to you. No need. We shall be together for a very long time, Toxic said, giving Issei a smile. So, I think it is time I take a nap. Even though I have slept for a while, I still need a lot of sleep. Good night. Good night, Issei said, waking up in the real world. When Issei sat up, he then heard a voice in his head. He was shocked. That is correct. You are not imagining this. What you have dreamt was real. We can now speak to each other at any time. I can also take over your body and mind when you need it, though I can never have access without you letting me. But now I need sleep, Toxic said, his voice getting softer and sleepier. He was gone. Issei stood up and left the cave, laughing a bit as he passed the green, red and blue lights. Who would have thought I would be immune to radiation? Issei said, leaving the cave. He formed his webbing on 2 trees, ready to return to the castle. He would not take this shit of Rias or her parents though. He slingshot himself, flying through the air, eventually landing on the tallest part of the Gremory castle. When Isay left the cave, it was actually the next day, quite into the evening. Human time, it would be about 7:30. Isay looked around, and spotted Azazel walking with Kiba to what looked like a hot springs. Isay now wanted to join them, considering he loved hot springs. Those were the best to swim in or to relax. Hot water over warm or cold? Fuck yes. Issei quickly went into the castle through an open window before jumping down all the way to the first floor, going between the large spiral staircase. He made a large spider web at the bottom, so he would not smack onto the ground. The webbing dissolved after 20 seconds and the suit around Issei went back into his right foot, so he was now dressed in his clothes he had for the trip here. "Ah, so you returned," said a familiar voice. It was Grafia. Issei turned and gave her a smile. "Ah, Lady Grafia," Issei said, bowing to her with respect. "Do you know where my room is?" "Yes, shall I take you there?" Grafia asked. "If you aren't busy." "Won't be a problem. Come with me," Grafia said. Issei followed her and they walked in silence for about 3 minutes, going up an elevator and heading into a large room. Grafia bowed her head and left, letting Issei settle in. Issei quickly got himself a towel, a special towel. This towel was made from Egyptian cotton, making it extremely comfortable. It was also pretty damn expensive. He had it made, so it was designed perfectly. It had spiders on it, all around, with spider webbing. It looked awesome. Issei undressed, wrapped a towel around himself, and ran towards the window that led to the hot spring. He did a leap outside the window before doing F, and using his wall crawling to slow his fall as he made his way out of the window. He was on the 3rd story, so it wasn't too far down. Issei then made his way to the hot spring, opening up the gate to the enclosure. There was a massive wall in the springs, so there was obviously a girl's side and a boy's side. Issei made his way around the corner, heading to the men's side. It was then Kiba looked up and spotted him. "Ah, Issei. Welcome back," Kiba said with a smile. "Come to join us, huh?" Issei gave him a wave. Issei removed his towel and climbed into the hot spring, moving to the deeper section. Azazel was humming a tune, his 12 black wings relaxing in the hot springs. "Ah, Issei. It's good to see you. Doing well?" "Yeah. I got in contact with the organism that fused with my body." "Very nice. Is he dangerous?" "Anyone is dangerous, but from what he told me, and I sensed nothing from him that would have told me a lie, he just needs a host to live. He provides benefits for his host, so it's a mutual relationship." "Does he have a name?" "It's kind of funny, actually. I call myself Venomous, right? He calls himself Toxic," Isay said with a laugh. "Wow, that is pretty neat," Azazel said, now relaxing in the corner against the wall in the hot spring. He let out a loud moan, enjoying the springs. Issei relaxed in the other corner of the hot springs, closing his eyes. He heard the giggles of the girls, so he began to think of naughty things now, his thoughts about all of them in the hot springs together, bathing and washing each other's body. Issei's eyes went wide open and he shook his head, trying to rid himself of the thoughts. It was then he noticed Azazel was moving closer to him, showing him a face. "By the way, Issei, have you rubbed Rias's breasts?" Azazel said, using the motions of his hands like he was squeezing 2 breasts. What? No! I could never. Is that so? Are you not thinking of naughty things with her? I saw it in your face. That is none of your business, Isay said, blushing a bit. He was found out. Azazel smiled and patted Issei's head. This is why you still have some way to go. I fell for the same reason as you. I plunged into the breasts of women, and fell. I do not regret it. Is that so? Well, I do want to, Issei said, slightly quieter. But it's not my place to do so. It was then, Issei heard their voices louder. Rias, did your busy get bigger again? Can I touch it a little? Really? And your way of touching is a little indecent rather. Didn't your bra cup change more than mine, Akeno? My old one was still fine even though it was a bit tight. However, recently, I've been thinking that it wouldn't be bad to show it off in a bigger way. A woman becomes much bolder when she has a partner she'd like to show it to, Rias. That's true. However, please don't stimulate that child so much. I'm jealous of how big you two are. Asia. Haven't yours also gotten bigger than before? Is that so? But if they're only this big I can't seem to be able to come to like it. Asia, did you hear that they become bigger if you rub them? Like this dash. Han. Don Zenovia. You and he still hasn't done this kind of thing to me. Asia is different from me and has a good touching sensation. I see. This may be what delights men as well. It is good to be young, isn't it, Rias? By the way, you really have been getting bigger every day, haven't you? Akeno cut it out. Release your hands from my breasts. The movements of your hands are on. Where did you learn such a thing? Rias breasts, what a nice sensation, Yafufu, I'll do this here and. No on, even though I haven't made that child do this kind of thing yet. Stop it, I decided that child would be my first AAN. Issei listened to their conversation, and his eyes began to get cloudy with. He was already aroused and his face was heating up. His nose was also slightly bleeding, but he quickly shook his head, and his eyes stopped. Oh God, I wanna peek, I am turning into a pervert. What's with you? Wanna peek? Azazel said, giving him a dirty smile. Issei did not respond. That's not so bad. It is a thing between real men. It is a rule to peek at the women's bath while in the hot spring. However, that just makes you a second-rate pervert. Issei looked at him, eyebrow raised, questioning him. Issei was beginning to look up to Azazel, and this scared Issei somewhat. Issei really wanted to see. Like this, Azazel said, grabbing Issei's arm and lifted him up. If you are man Issei, it has to be mixed bathing, Azazel said proudly. Issei's eyes went wide at what Azazel just said, and that is when Issei was airborne. Issei began to flail in the air as he went into the air and over the wall, though he was tossed quite high up. Azazel gave too much power. Issei's eyes met with Rias's and Akeno's as he was high in the air, and that is when gravity, the fickle bitch, sent him down. Sploolish! Issei hit the water flailing around, so it sent a large splash. Luckily he was sent into the deep water. Issei came out of the water, coughing up some water, and rubbing his face before shaking it. When he looked up, he saw everything. Rias, Akeno, Asia, Zenobia, and Kaneko. They were all of them. Issei's mind was hit hard by this sight. Oh sweet Jesus, Issei thought. Issei was surprised, cause he would have thought that there would be many screams of pervert, and he would be beaten within an inch of his life, but Rias, Akeno, Asia, and Zenobia didn't even try to hide their bodies. They just looked at him, though Rias and Akeno were approaching. Era Issei. Were you thrown over by Azazel? Was your body properly washed? Afufu, you're so daring, Issei. Rias and Akeno said, approaching him, their big breasts swaying. Oh my Azazel, what fresh hell did you put me into? Akeno caught Issei before Rias did, just a split second before. Issei. I caught you, Akeno said with a sing-song voice. She embraced him, pressing her body right against his front. Oh, who am I kidding? This is heaven. She was hugging onto him tightly, smiling down at him, her long hair unbound. Issei was becoming very aroused, enjoying this so much. Ever since Toxic awoke, he found that he was definitely becoming more and more perverted. Issei's mind snapped once again as he felt two more things right against his back. Rias embraced him from the front, and her face appeared from over his shoulder. Hooray for boobies! Akeno! Get away from my Issei! Rias said, wrapping her arms around Issei's neck, trying to pull Issei away from Akeno. However, Akeno clung to him more firmly. No way. I have decided to enjoy the hot springs with Issei. I'm already heating up our bodies by clinging on like this. Issei's body feels so good just by touching it like this, Akeno said, pressing her breasts up against his body more. Stop it! Issei's body is mine. Who do you think trained and raised this child? It is the fruits of my labor that made the feeling of embracing him like this the best. From this child's hair to his entire body, everything is mine, Rias said. Issei did not hear them argue, as his mind was racing and snapping. Somehow I am feeling sensitive. Is this because of what Akeno did just before, or is it because I'm touching Issei? Rias said, pressing her body against Issei's back more and embracing him tighter. Rias was breathing roughly, so it gave Issei another attack on his mind. Oh God, this is a legendary breast sandwich, this is paradise. Asia pouted softly. Even though I want to enjoy the hot springs with Issei too. As I thought, it will be impossible to snatch Issei away from those two. I have no choice but to watch from afar, Zenobia said. Issei quickly shook his head, freeing his mind from the naughty thoughts. I cannot lose control, I need to maintain control, Issei thought. He then saw something in the corner of his eye. He turned his head and spotted Kaneko. She had her face half submerged in the water, wearing a gloomy expression while blowing bubbles in the water. Kaneko didn't look very good. However, Issei was unable to do anything, due to the two girls giving him the breast sandwich. His mind quickly went back to before, clouded with naughty thoughts, and it was then he began to lose consciousness, yet he did it with a smile on his face. Issei. Rias went. Issei. Akeno said. And with that Issei was gone, a smile on his face, and naughty thoughts in his head. It was the day after the fun in the bath. Rias, Isay and her peerage were all in the Gremory family's large garden, and Azazel was also there. Everyone was wearing a jersey, except Isay, who wore a black t-shirt and a black cargo pants. He found out that his suit, the symbiote, can in fact morph into other clothes. He did learn that they can change colors, but he was still learning. Toxic was helping him with all the goodies that came with being fused with the symbiotic organism. Everyone was sitting around a large table that was placed in the garden, and it was a meeting about training. Let me say this first. What I'm going to give you now is a training regimen that focuses on things in the immediate future. There are people who produce good results immediately, but there are those who have no choice but to look at things in the long run. However, you are all growing young people, so even if you mistake your direction, you will grow very well. Now, Rias, you are first. Rias stepped up. From the beginning, you have been a high-spec devil with everything: talent, physical ability, and magic power. Even if you live normally as you currently are, your traits will keep on rising and you will become a candidate for being a highest-grade devil when you become an adult. However, your wish is to become stronger than you would in that future, right? Rias nodded. Then, follow the training recorded on this sheet exactly, even all the way up to the battle day. Battle day? Isay asked suddenly. Oh, you will have your first raiding game in 1 month against Sona, Azazel said. Isay nodded. But this training doesn't seem all that special, though. That is correct, it is a basic training. Train your mind. You are already powerful enough with magic power, but you need to train as the king. Study, 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 Azazel said. Learn how to make your pieces shine and how to topple any obstacle. Study everything. Brain for the king is more important than body. Next, Akeno. Yes, Akeno said sullenly. She really did not care much for Azazel. You must accept the blood that flows within you. With that, Akeno began to frown, but Azazel continued without paying it any attention. You are limiting yourself to only thunder. If you do not add light onto thunder and make lightning, you cannot display your true power, Azazel said. Isay understood everything now. He already knew about her father, but now he knew what power her fallen angel side gave and why she refused to use it. I can do just fine even if I don't depend on that kind of power. Don't deny yourself. What will you do if you cannot accept yourself? In the end, the only thing you can rely on is your own body, right? Denying yourself makes you weak. Accept everything about yourself, even the tough and painful things. Your weakness is your current self. Overcome it, or you will become obstruction in future battles. The priestess of thunder must become the priestess of lightning. Akeno did not respond, but she understood. Next is Kiba. Yes. First, you must maintain balance breaker for a full day. If you get used to it, you'll be able to maintain it for a full day in your actual battle form. Your objective is continue that and to become able to maintain that state for the length of a day. After that, you will be able to become strong by doing basic training like Rias. I will teach you man-to-man how to handle sword-type sacred gears later. For sword training, will you train under your teacher again? Yes. I plan to be taught from scratch. Next, Zenobia. To be able to use Duran now better than you do now, you need to be able to use another holy sword. It was then Isay walked over. Azazel, may I interrupt? Sure. What is it you need? I have been wanting to give this to Zenobia for a while, Isay said. He went towards his backpack he laid on the ground and pulled out the sword, Ascalon. Ascalon? You aren't going to use it? Azazel asked. I have no proficiency using swords. I am better if I can just use my fists, Isay said. He walked over to Zenobia and gripped the holy part of the sword. He first wrapped his hand in the suit of armor, but the holy began to sizzle against the armor, forming strands of smoke. He handed her the sword, the handle closer to her. This here is a gift from Michael to me. I want you to have it, Zenobia. Azazel smiled. Well, that clears up the issue. The next is Asia. Why, yes, Asia said, showing fighting spirit. She really wanted to improve herself. You will also improve your body and magic with basic training. Your main task will be to strengthen your sacred gear. I suspect she can train to heal at range, so that is what I will have her train as. Rias gasped. Are you serious? Could it really expand its range? I am positive it can. Wow, that would be really great, Rias said with a smile. Asia, do your best. Why, yes. I also think it is possible that the sacred gear can be used over an area. Rias gasped. Wow. But the problem would be it would seem to heal both enemies and allies without discernment, but I believe that is because of Asia's own nature. Everyone nodded, except Akeno, who was still upset. Keep in mind though, the long-range healing can be a double-edged sword for this team but still work on the ranged healing. Asia nodded. Next is Kaneko. Yes, Kaneko said. She was in real fighting spirit. She was strangely excited today, despite the fact she was upset for a couple days earlier. You have nothing to be criticized about, as you possess the elementary traits of offense and defense as a rook. Your physical ability is also not a problem, but there are those better at offense than Rias's group than a rook like you. I know that, Kaneko said, with a frustrated expression. Issei looked at Kaneko, watching her. Is this why Kaneko was so upset? Did she feel really weak and useless? She isn't weak or useless. The ones at the top of offense in Rias' group are currently Kiba, Zenobia, and Isay. It is because they possess brutal weapons like the holy demonic swords or the Duranal. Or in Issei's case, an alien symbiotic organism and the powers of the spider that he had before the symbiote. Issei was listening, hoping to find the reason to Kaneko's sadness. Kaneko. You shall also improve your basics like the others. In addition, release the thing you have personally sealed. It is the same as with Akeno. If you do not accept yourself, big growth will be impossible for you. Kaneko said nothing and her fighting spirit took a massive dip at the mentioning of releasing. Issei looked at her. Releasing what did she seal and why? But Issei smiled and stood next to Kaneko. He went to pat her hair. Don't worry. If it is Kaneko, you can become strong in a flash. However, Kaneko brushed his hand away. Please don't say that so lightly, Kaneko said, giving him a very, very stern expression, while having a very venomous undertone. Issei took a step back in shock, his eyes really, really concerned. Did he do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? It is like I just stepped on a landmine. The atmosphere became somewhat gloomy, but Issei continued. Now then, the last is Isay. Well, I really don't know how to train you. I don't know anything about you. I guess you should talk with the symbiote and train with him. Issei smiled. That was the plan. I have some more things to learn about the symbiote. Azazel nodded, and with that everyone split up, though Issei and Azazel stayed behind. Azazel, I will be here, Issei said, pointing at a large map on the table. He pointed at the mountain. At the base of the mountain is a cave. You need to go forward until you reach the third intersection. Take a right, and go all the way. There is an underground lake, however, it is radioactive, so please take care, Issei said. Azazel nodded. All right. Good luck, Azazel said, taking flight. Issei prepared a slingshot, then zoom. It was time to train. About 3 days have passed since Issei went to the cave to train. He had trained long and hard with Toxic, though Toxic did have long naps at times, training to master the Toxic's benefits. He was close to mastering it, on the final stretch of the training. Shape-shifting. The symbiotic organism had fused so much with Issei's body that his DNA was made up of so much of the symbiote. So Issei was learning how to turn his body into that of like a liquid, so he could fit into small places, but it was tough. Issei was worried about Akeno and Kaneko, but he knew enough that it wasn't his business to get involved with their affairs. Kaneko already told him off, basically saying fuck you and mind your own business. He was still really worried about them, wanting them to be okay. It was then he heard some footsteps behind him, so he looked behind him. It was Azazel. Ah, Issei. Beautiful spot, Azazel said. Thanks. I went here after I had a fallout with Rias and her family when we arrived. This was also the spot that awoke Toxic from his coma. So what did you come here for? Can we talk? Of course, Issei said, patting the rock next to him. Azazel took a seat. What do you think about Akeno? Azazel said suddenly, I think she is a great girl. She's kind, very pretty, and I think she is fun to be around. Her sadistic personality in battle is really great as well, so overall, she is a great person. Why? Do you think I can entrust her to you? Azazel asked suddenly. Issei looked at him with a confused expression. What is going on? Issei asked. I have to watch over her, in the place of a friend of mine. Her father, Barakil, right? Yes, he is one of my greatest friends along with Shemhaza. Why do you want to entrust her to me? 'Cause I am concerned about her. You know she doesn't like her father very much, right? Of course. Did you know she refuses to use her complete power because of him? Yes, though I do not know why. It would be best to ask Rias or her mother. They would be able to give unbiased opinions. I will then, but I think I want to hear it from both sides. From you and Akeno. Anyways, what is with this entrusting? Just protect and take care of her for me, okay? Of course. I was going to do that whether you asked me to or not. I will always protect my friends and loved ones. Azazel smiled and began to get up to leave. Azazel? Yes, Issei? Something has been bothering me. What is wrong with Kaneko exactly? I know that she is sealing something, but I don't know what, nor do I know why. I am worried. Azazel frowned a bit. I think you should go see her. She collapsed this morning from her training. Issei got up quickly. Are you serious? I will see you later then, Issei said, bowing his head. He then got to running, quickly leaving the cave system. Thank you, Azazel! Issei yelled out. Azazel left as well, more business to handle. Issei slingshot himself to the Gremory castle. Isay had learned that he would never be able to fly, because the symbiote had erased that DNA sequence from his DNA as a devil. Isay quickly entered the main gate. Isay? Said a familiar female voice. Isay turned and it was Rias. Isay, Rias said, walking over to him and giving him a big hug. Are you okay? I am just fine. I came here to see Kaneko. Is she okay? Rias frowned. Come with me, Rias said, walking with Isay into the castle. They arrived shortly in a small room, though Rias left Isay alone. Isay walked in and he saw Akeno and Kaneko both there. His eyes were locked onto Kaneko, who was laying down on the bed, a change in her appearance. She had cat ears on her face. He was quite surprised, but he thought it looked great on her and fit her well. Isay, this is Akeno, tried to explain. Isay just raised a hand and smiled at her gently, before taking a seat on a chair next to Kaneko's bed. Isay put his fists together, leaning against the bed as he put his against his fists, trying to figure out what to say. Isay sighed and sat up. I don't know much, so I will apologize if I say something wrong, Isay said. Kaneko sat up slowly, looking at Isay with tears in her eyes. Kaneko, are you okay? You came? Of course, Isay said with a smile. I would never abandon you or anyone else. I heard you collapsed, so I came. I had to make sure you were okay. I wasn't here to protect you, so you collapsed. I could never forgive myself if you died, Isay said with a frown. No. It isn't your fault. It's mine, Kaneko said, tears falling down her. Isay tried to say something, but Kaneko continued. I want to become stronger. Isay nodded. I understand that, but if you overwork your body you will regret it. You need to just stop and try something else. No. I want to become strong. Like Hyoudou or Zenobia or Akeno, and like you. I want to make my body and spirit stronger. I will become useless at this rate. Even though I'm a rook, I'm the weakest. I hate being useless, Kaneko said, tears falling down her face. Kaneko, Isay tried to interrupt, but Kaneko continued. But I don't want to use the power sleeping inside of me, my Nakomata power. If I use it I will end up like my sister. I don't want that. I absolutely don't want such a thing, Kaneko said as she began to sob. Isay bit his lip but placed a hand on her leg. Kaneko, Isay started, but Akeno interrupted him. Isay, please leave the rest to me, Akeno said with sadness. You're a kind person, but you should keep your distance just a little. Sometimes I am the same as Kaneko. We have to overcome this together. If one cannot accept all of oneself, and can't understand it, one can't move forward. Kaneko and I understand this in our heads, but our courage is just slightly not enough yet. Please wait just a little longer. Kaneko and I will get through this definitely, Akeno said with a small smile. Isay stood up and began to leave. I understand. Issei said. Issei was slightly frustrated that he was unable to say his piece. But he understood that this was their choice to go through this without another's help. They had to do this together, he understood. He would just have to bite his. Issei left the room and began to walk down the hallway, his mind elsewhere. That is when Rias appeared from a room. Ah, Issei. Issei walked past her, as if he didn't hear her. Issei? No answer, and then Issei was gone. He slingshot himself back to the cave system. Nikomata? Her sister? What is going on with Kaniko's side, but I can't find out. Another 2 weeks has passed since Issei has been to the Gremory castle. He was there trying to check up on Kaniko and Akeno. He kept his distance, obeying what they wanted. He did not want to overstep his boundaries with the girls, so he stayed away. He kept himself in the cave system, finally mastering the entire symbiote. He even was told by Toxic, to increase his strength he needs to train his physical body. The symbiote actually helps that by making the strength-making process faster. Issei was already powerful as Venomous, but he was not at god level yet, but he could be very soon. Issei. Ready to go? Azazel said. He was there to fetch Issei. Yeah, Issei said. He quickly put the suit on, though in the form of beige cargo pants and a red t-shirt with the spider symbol on it. He then was teleported by Azazel, finding himself at the entrance to the party grounds. Issei walked inside. Issei, Rias said. She then looked at him and sighed, but she smiled. Glad you could make it. I see Azazel got you here. Yeah, he fetched me. Time to party. Come on. Let's go in, Rias said with a smile. Issei nodded and followed her, where they entered the main party within the castle gates. Issei was greeted with the sight of thousands of devils in the castle gates, eating, dancing, or talking with other devils. It was a humongous party. Rias left Issei to go talk with Sona, who was on the other side of the grounds, so Issei just took a seat in the corner. He put his feet on the table next to him, which was empty, and relaxed. Issei was alone for about 5 minutes before he felt someone was nearby. He had his face looking up into the sky, though his eyes were closed. It's been a while, Spider Boy. With that, Issei opened his eyes and looked down. It was Revel Phoenix. Ah, the sister of Big Bird, Issei said with a grin and a joke. He was teasing her, but she puffed her out in anger. It's Revel Phoenix. Geez, this is why lower-class devils are so slow and disagreeable, Revel said angrily. Issei just smirked. So, how is your brother doing? Revel just gave a sigh. He isn't doing so well. He has become quite a recluse. He has become afraid of spiders ever since his defeat, and having Rias stolen away from him. Ah, well, I can't say I feel sorry for him, but I never meant to make him become a recluse. So why are you here? Aren't you part of your brother's group? Actually, I have currently finished trading and I have become my mother's servant now. My mother traded away an unused piece she had in exchange for me. My mother said that she would trade me again if I found a family I want to become part of, so I am essentially a free bishop now. My mother doesn't participate in games, so I am pretty much free. Ah, well, I never heard of this trading, but it does make sense to me, so congratulations, I guess, Issei said with a smile. I would like to thank you for your kind service to the children of the underworld. I heard what you did for them. Ah, it was nothing, Issei said with a smile. He had no hatred towards Revel, just because of Riser. He actually thought she was really cute. He doesn't even hate Riser that much. For all he knows, Riser changed. By the way, Spider B. Stop it with the Spider Boy. My name is Issei Hyoudou, and I would like you to call me by my name. You can also call me Venomous. That is an acceptable alternative, but I would much prefer Issei Hyoudou. Is it really okay for me to call you by your name? Revel asked, her face red. She looked like she was overheating to him. Why wouldn't it be? Are you not attempting to be my friend? My friends can call me whatever they wish. Call me Isay. Please. Revel just blushed. Okay, she said. It was then a figure appeared, though it wasn't a girl he recognized. Revel, Master's friend is calling for you, Isabella said. Isay just sat there still, his legs crossed on the table. I understand, Isabella. Isay, next time we meet, would you like to have tea with me? And if it is okay with you, would you like to have a homemade cake prepared by me? Before Issei could say anything, Ravel curtsied to Issei and left in a hurry. Issei just blinked a bit confused. Hey, Issei Hyoudou. Do I know you? No, but I know of you. I watched your fight with my master. I am Isabella, Riser's rook. I was quite impressed with the fight and I thought you were funny. I also know what you did. You saved a couple children from death. Please, there is no need to thank me or whatever. I really think it was nothing. Also, I am glad OT make you laugh. Anyways, are you Ravel's escort? Something like that. Since that battle during the engagement party, Ravel has only talked about you. She seems to have been impressed between the fight you and Riser had. Isn't she just complaining though? I made some quite thoughtless remarks to her as well, and I interfered in her brother's engagement. No, it's quite the opposite. Well, you will understand eventually. If you say so, Issei said with confusion. Please tell her that I look forward to having tea with her. Really? Thank you for that. Ravel will be very happy. Well, I have to go have a good time at the party, Isabella said before leaving. Issei just shrugged. He went back to closing his eyes, but a figure came into his sight. It was Kaneko, and she looked very absorbed into something. Issei got up from his table wanting to make sure she was okay even though he knew she didn't want him around. Issei made his way towards her, wanting to follow her. As Issei went into the door behind her, though he was quite far behind her, Rias was there. Ah, Issei. Your expression has changed. Something wrong? Yes, but allow me to handle it on my own. It's about Kaneko. I know she is your servant, but I need to make sure she is okay. Rias gave him a smile. Of course. Just make sure she is okay. I am trusting you. Of course. I won't let you down, Issei said, bowing to Rias before he made his way through the hallway, heading towards the exit. He spotted Kaneko entering the forest nearby. He was quick to jog to it, but he wanted to see what was going on. Issei hid behind a tree as he spotted Kaneko, sitting on a rock in the middle of a clearing. She was looking from side to side, as if looking for something. It was then a figure came into Issei's vision. It's been a while, hasn't it, Chiron? Issei raised a brow at that. You, Kaneko said, her body shaking in violent surprise. Hello, Chiron, it's me. What are you doing here, Kuroka? Kaneko asked, in anger and fear. She said it mostly in anger. Issei leapt into the tree, only making the leaves move, though it was just like the breeze. Issei made no sound with his feet. He was waiting. Oh, don't make such a scary face. I just had some minor business to take care of. I heard the devils were having a big party here, so I was a little interested. Nyan, Kuroka said with a wink and waving her hand cutely. Haha. Could it be you are a member of the Gremory group? Said a voice. It was a male's voice and a man stepped out from behind a tree. Oh, you are, he said with a grin. It was Biko. Even if you hide, Kuroka and I can still sense you. We know Senjutsu, so we can detect you with just a slight variation in the flow of your spirit. Issei sighed and leapt out of the tree, landing gracefully on the ground in front of Kaneko. He just had the clothing on. Biko and Kuroka just looked at him curiously, while Kaneko looked at Issei with surprise. Issei, Kaneko said softly in surprise. Issei smiled weakly at Kaneko, then looked at Biko and Kuroka. Biko, who is this? Kuroka asked. This is the man who defeated Vali easily. Wait. Are you sure? He doesn't look like much. Yes. This is him. This isn't the form he used. Issei looked at Biko. So tell me, monkey, is Vali doing well? Yes. He is doing just fine. Why are you here? I followed Kaneko. I had to speak with her, and I saw she was troubled tonight. I had to see what was going on is all. So tell me, why are you here? Is this some kind of terrorist attack? Issei asked, but they just smiled. No, we didn't come here for such a thing. We are off duty. Kuroka suggested visiting the party when she heard about it, since she is quite stubborn and most likely wouldn't return easily. I came along too. Issei nodded. Alright, though, what does Kaneko have to do with anything? Kuroka, let's go back, okay? Biko said with a yawn, ignoring Issei. We can't participate in the party anyway, so it's a waste to stay here. Yes, let's return, but I'll take Chiron with me, Nyan. It was then, Issei got ready for a fight. If you bring her back, Vali might get angry, you know, Biko said. When they know that the same power as mine flows within her, they will be convinced, right? Well, that may be so. Kaneko was shivering in fear. Alright, I don't know who you are, Kuroka, but I think it's time you leave. You are scaring my adorable junior, Issei said, stepping in front of Kaneko. Kuroka Biko started to warn. We should leave. No, I shall be taking my sister. I have a right to love her, Kuroka said, preparing to fight. We can just kill him, right, Naya? It was then Issei grew his suit, the suit covering his body and his face. He was now venomous. He was ready. This is the form, Biko said. That is the form he took when he fought Vali and kicked his ass. You will not harm Kaneko, Kuroka. I will kick your ass if you even dare try and take her. Kuroka narrowed her eyes at him, sending off major killing intent. She was being taunted. It was then Issei felt the disturbance. They were put into a barrier in a separate dimension. Alright, I guess I will have to kill you, Kuroka said with a very dangerous smile. Issei, Kaneko said, trying to warn him. It was then Issei knelt and looked at her. Kaneko, I wanted to say something to you before, but Don't you dare ignore me. You will pay with your life, Nyan, Kuroka said, rushing at Issei. Issei felt the danger through his spider sense. He stood up and turned around quickly, grabbing her outstretched arm. It was attempting to hit him with the palm. Issei then put his hand on her stomach before throwing her across the clearing, sending her into a tree. Kuroka, like a cat, landed on all fours on the tree and she jumped off. Sister, I'll go with you. So please, just overlook him, Kaneko said, tears in her eyes. Kaneko? Issei exclaimed. He was shocked to hear that Kuroka was her sister, though. It's no good, I understand my sister's power best. She rivals an ultimate class devil. I don't think you can defeat her, who excels in both Genjutsu and Senjutsu. Kaneko! I will not allow you to leave us. Do you understand me? I will not hand you over to your sister. I do not know what your past is and I am not exactly sure what is going on with you and her, but I want to know, but now is not the time. I do not understand, but I do know this. She caused you pain and she continues to cause you pain to this day. So, I will protect you, Issei said, kneeling once again in front of her. Nyan, this is just so troublesome. I can understand Chiron's power better than anyone you know, so that is why she should come with me. I can teach her properly. Kaneko shook her head. No, I don't need that kind of power. I don't need a dark power like that. I don't need a power that brings misfortune to people like that, Kaneko said, tears falling. She clung to Issei's leg. Issei grinned. Kaneko, I'll give you space like you wanted when I am done here, but now I need to protect you first. Kuroka, you need to understand something. You hurt Kaneko. You hurt her real bad. You don't deserve to take your sister away from people who care for her, Issei said. This girl is not Chiron, this girl is Kaneko Tuju, Rias Gremory's rook. She is my friend, and I will not allow you to lay a single on her. Kaneko heard that and began to overflow with tears, sobbing into the pants leg of Issei. I don't want to go, I am Kaneko Tuju. Kuroka, I do not want to go with you. I want to live with Issei and Rias. To live! Kaneko cried out, sobbing still. Issei was determined more than ever to protect Kaneko. After hearing that, Kuroka showed a bitter smile, then gave a derisive laugh, which sent a chill down Issei's spine. He knew Kuroka was strong, but Issei was determined to defeat her. Then die, Nyan? Kuroka said with a grin. A thin green mist began to appear from Kuroka's feet, and it spread throughout the whole forest. It was really thick and it had an ominous air about it. When it hit, Issei felt nothing, but he felt Kaneko freeze up and go to the ground, covering her. Huh! Why are you not affected by the poison mist? It is a poison mist which only works on devils and yokai. What are you? Kuroka said. Her hands began to glow with 2 different colors, 2 different powers. Let us see how you handle Jujutsu and Senjutsu, Kuroka yelled. She ran at Issei, preparing to attack with a physical attack. Issei smirked and shot 2 shots of webbing, both of them hitting her hand and sending her flying. The hands were then webbed to a tree, and that is when he formed 3 spikes on his knuckles, made out of the symbiote's body. She began to struggle against the webs, but she found it was futile. What the hell is this made of? Kuroka yelled out, using her powers as well, but nothing worked. Not even a budge. He charged right at her, as her eyes went wide with fear. She then closed her eyes shut, waiting for the finishing blow. However, she opened her eyes a few seconds later, only to see that the sharp spikes were centimeters away from her face. Do not ever make my friends cry. If you ever aim at Kaneko again, I will not stop my attack this time. You may be a woman and you may be Kaneko's sister, but you are my enemy. The only reason you are unharmed is because you are Kaneko's family, Issei said. He then pulled off her webbing before doing a leap backward, standing in front of Kaneko. The poison mist was also gone now, as it seemed it was ate up by Issei. You damn brat! Kuroka cursed at him, but Issei saw the fear in her eyes. Issei was quite scary looking. He was not super muscular, but the fangs and the gave him a very scary look. Issei did not put off pressure like other opponents, due to the suit concealing his power. It made his attacks a lot more surprising. Kaneko was finally able to stand, the poison not affecting her. She was hiding behind Issei's leg again, hugging it. It was then a tear in the space appeared. A young man in a suit appeared, a sword in his hand which was releasing a very dangerous holy aura. Issei looked at him. Biko, Kuroka. That is far enough. The devils have noticed. We need to leave, now, the man said. He was also wearing glasses. Biko and Kuroka quickly went into the large tear in space. He then turned his attention to Issei. Venomous, right? Yes. What can I do for you? Issei said. He had no hatred or anger towards this guy. Give my greetings to the holy demonic sword user and the Durandal user, would you? I would like to face them sometime as fellow swordsmen. I would be glad to. Perhaps you and I could share a sparring? Sure. I would be okay with that, Issei said with a smile. Just don't cause me any trouble. The man bowed. Now then, goodbye, Venomous. He said this and then they left, leaving Issei and Kaneko behind. It was the day of the raiding game, and Issei was dressed in the black suit, sitting on a lawn chair. He had the mask off as well. Hello everyone. The arbiter for this match shall be me, Queen of Surzex Lucifer, Graphia. Today is the match between Sona Citri and Rias Gremory. The kings are located at their bases. Sona is on the first floor west side. Rias is on the second floor, east side. In order for pawns to promote, please move to the opponent's base. This match will have special rules. Documents on these rules have been sent to each group, so please check them. A single bottle of Phoenix Tears have been provided to each time. Furthermore, the time to strategize is 30 minutes. Contact with the opponent is forbidden. The game starts in 30 seconds. Let the strategy game begin. And with that, Graphia was gone. Rias looked over her document. She narrowed her eyes. Damn, this is not good. What's wrong, Rias? Akeno asked. We cannot destroy them all. So no flashy moves. Sweet. Luckily I don't cause destruction normally. Oh, I know exactly what I'ma do, Issei said with a grin. Yes, this battle will count on Issei, Kiba and Kaneko. Since you guys have the ability to not destroy them all at least better than the rest of us, it will be on your shoulders to win us the game. Issei got up from his chair to go take a walk. Issei. You and Kaneko will go together, okay? Can you tell me where you want to go? I want to go to the open area in the middle of the mall. Is that okay? Issei asked Kiba. Yes, that is fine, Kiba said. I'ma go read for a while then, Issei said, putting in the magical earpiece given to him by Akeno, then leaving to the clothing store. He then stopped and turned around, going back to Rias. Rias, I have a very special request. What is it? Rias asked. Issei began to whisper into her ear, in which she began to laugh after hearing it. You are evil, but I like it. I will do it. Issei left and walked into the bookstore and sat down with a book about World War II. It was more importantly, about the tanks of the German forces in World War II. Issei loved World War II, he loved the German weaponry and tactics, and he liked playing the German side in those World War II games. Issei was alone for a good 5 minutes, before he felt 2 heavenly orbs against his back. Issei, what you reading? Hi Akeno, I am reading about the Tiger 1 and the Tiger 2 of World War II. What are you doing? Issei asked as Akeno hugged onto him, embracing with him a very tight hug. Gaining courage, Akeno said with a painful voice. Issei felt heartbroken, because he was unable to help her. I need the courage to fight because I might have to use the other power that flows within me this time, and I'm scared. I hate it, that is why I am getting courage from you. Issei bit his lip. I know you can do anything, you are strong, proud, and kind, you can get through this, I know it, and if it helps by embracing me, then I am happy to give you courage, Issei said with a smile. Akeno had a couple tears in her eyes, but she wiped them away. When I bring out my power of light, will you watch? If Issei is watching, I will be able to use it. Issei smiled. Of course I will watch. I can't wait to see Akeno in action. Akeno smiled brightly. I'm so happy if I am together with Issei. Surely you belong to Rias, but even so I will always be by your side, Akeno said, in a very low voice. Issei only caught bits and pieces. It was then Issei noticed Akeno's were closing in. He was suddenly frozen. Issei. It's almost time to gather, said a familiar voice. Just as Akeno and Issei's were about to touch, Kaneko appeared. Kaneko. This is Issei said, trying to get an excuse, but he got nothing. Kaneko just sighed. Oh my, you saw us, Kaneko afufu. Issei, thank you. I'm okay now, Akeno said, her pleasant smiling face on. She began to leave, but she whispered something that Issei did not hear. Next time for sure with you. Issei stood up and sighed, heading towards the door, but he was then grasped by Kaneko. Kaneko? Please give me courage too, Kaneko said, her face red. Issei smiled, knowing only a little bit. Of course, if I can give you such a thing, Issei said, his smile bright and warm. He grasped her hand back, giving it a gentle squeeze. Issei thought that if Akeno and Kaneko could gain courage just by hugging him or holding his hand, he would do so any time they wanted. Issei, aren't you afraid of me, as a Nikomata? No. Not at all, Issei said calmly. Kaneko's face was astonished, though Issei did not see. Her face was down and sad. Issei was still kind of trying to avoid Kaneko. Before the training began, I said something horrible to Issei, Kaneko said sadly. Issei understood what she was talking about. She snapped at him as he tried to give her some positive reinforcement. He wasn't upset with her or anything, he was more of upset with himself. You don't have to worry about that, I was the one at fault. I didn't know your circumstances and I opened my big fat. I was an inconsiderate senior. No, that isn't true, Kaneko said, grasping his hand harder. I'll use my Nikomata power. I hate what my sister became, but as things are now I may not be able to be useful to everyone, that's why I'll use it, Kaneko said, her face determined. Issei smiled and knelt down, grasping her shoulders. Kaneko, you'll surely overcome your Nikomata power. I know you can do it, Issei said, trying to encourage her. I will also declare this to you. If you run out of control with your Nikomata power, though I know you won't, I will stop you. I will protect you now and forever. Even if that scary sister of yours comes again, I will definitely save you. I shall blow her away with just one punch, so don't ever be scared, Issei said, trying to be manly for her. He thrusted out his and thumped it like a dork. You really are a gentle spider, Kaneko murmured. Issei didn't hear anything from her except just sound, it wasn't anything coherent. Kaneko and Issei made their way back to Rias and the others. Game start, Grafia said. You have 3 hours maximum. All right, everyone. Your instructions are clear, let us win, and show them what it means to be a Gremory. Rias shouted out, wanting her peerage to be pumped up and ready to go. Issei smiled, put on his mask before slinging with his web across the large area, heading towards the middle quickly. Kaneko went down the stairs, going to catch up with Issei, who was already out of view. When Kaneko arrived at the middle of the entire mall, which there was a giant skylight, there was a massive black web, spun out from the floor to the skylight. There was also another large web spanning across the skylight. There was also different strands of web, leading near the enemy's base. Issei was currently laying against the web, just waiting. He looked down and spotted Kaneko. He was surprised and oddly turned on. Kaneko had cat ears and a tail. A tail. Issei covered his nose and shook his head. Way too cute, oh man. If cuteness could kill, I'd be dead, Issei thought. Issei then shot out 2 strands of web, then yanked. What came with was Saji and another person. They were somehow spotted by Issei and yanked. Issei pulled them right into the web, where they were now stuck. Saji was on his back and the girl with him was on her stomach. Damn it! How did you catch us? You stepped over one of my strands of webbing I used as trip wire. I just fired my webbing in the general direction quickly. Saji and the girl began to struggle, only making the web jiggle. What the hell? We can't move. Of course. You are caught in my extra strength webbing. Ooh. Issei yelled out, shooting out 2 more webs, yanking. However, all he did was bring 1 more person and then a door, which slammed right into Saji. Ow! Saji yelled out, still trying to get out. The person that was yanked was Tsubasa, a rook. Damn! Even Tsubasa! How powerful are you? Saji yelled out. All 3 began to struggle as Kaneko just stood there, looking up. What are you doing, Issei? Kaneko asked. He watched as Issei began crawl on the web, acting like a spider. The itsy bitsy spider came up the wall, down came his fury, and he killed them all. He opened his and prepared to fire some of his venom while wearing his Y attire. Issei sung out, albeit terribly, but sung it nonetheless. He opened his and that is when everyone noticed it. Issei's began to emit noxious fumes. The liquid venom turned into gas as it hit the air. The fumes made the 3 people in the web cough, while Kaneko backed away. The amount of fumes was immense, and there was more and more of it. It began to form a cloud, enveloping the 3 people in the web. The 3 people, Tsubasa, Saji and Ruruko, a pawn, all began to cough. They were coughing and hacking, unable to do anything but lay there and suffer as they could not break free. About 10 seconds later they were gone. 2 pawns, 1 rook, 1 knight, 1 queen. Sona retired. Issei smirked and looked at Kaneko, who was smiling. They were winning without any losses. This was a good day. Issei leapt from his webbing and landed near Kaneko. Rias, Akeno, Kiba, Zenobia and Asia all came from one door, while Issei and Kaneko came from the other. Very good work, my servants. In the large room, there was 2 bishops and the king, Sona. They were all behind a barrier which was able to withstand Rias's destruction power. Issei walked right up to the barrier and began to breathe his very noxious venom gas. He placed his against the barrier, opening his wide, giving them a wicked view of his teeth. We need to move, that gas is extremely lethal, Kaneko said, moving back out the room. The other members followed, though Rias at least allowed herself some vision. The room began to fill with the toxic smoke, which began to peel the paint off the walls. It also began to form holes in the walls, but it was the barrier. The barrier began crack, and then it shattered, only for the concentration of the gas to envelop the 2 bishops. The king was not there. 2 bishops, Sona, retired. Issei quickly ate up the gas, not wanting to destroy the entire mall. Issei walked out and returned with his friends. Issei, you are really full of surprises, Rias said. Issei smiled. Why, thank you. I just learned about it during my training. I have a very nasty bite. Akeno smiled. You are amazing, Issei, though I am disappointed I didn't get to use my powers. I'm sorry, Akeno, some other time, okay? Actually, how about after this game, you show me yourself? You versus me in a spar. I wanna see it, okay? Akeno blushed and nodded. That sounds great. The king is on the roof, Kaneko said. Rias nodded and everyone relocated to the roof. In a viewing room, Surzex, Seraphal, Azazel and a couple other people were watching the fight. Ho ho ho, what an interesting battle, said a very old man. He had a large head of gray hair and a matching large beard. He also had an eye patch over his left eye. Surzex, the old man asked. Yes, Odin? Surzex asked. Odin was the king of the gods in the Norse mythology. About that boy who is using webbing and poison gas. You mean Haida Issei? He is known as Venomous. He has the powers of a spider, and he has fused with an alien organism. Ah yes, that one right there, what a good devil, you should take care of that one. I see he is strong, but he isn't selfish with his power. He protects others with his power, take care of him, Odin said with a smile. This sister of yours, Rias, was it? She has a very powerful group of servants. They will become probably one of the best groups, if not the best, in 10 years, but they also have a very fatal weakness. Isay, Azazel said. Yes, the boy with the spider powers, he is their lifeline. He is their stability. If he falls, your sister and her team may just collapse, Odin said. Everyone arrived on the roof, where Sona was waiting. Rias stepped forward, but she had a smile. Your servant here is very powerful. I was surprised he took out most of my servants. Yes, Issei here is my most powerful servant. He is still getting stronger. So shall we fight then? Sona said. Oh, I would love a one-on-one fight, Sona, but you see I made a promise. A promise? Issei was no longer in his suit, and he began to laugh. He began to laugh like a maniacal evil clown. It started out softly. Yes to Issei, Rias said. A magic circle appeared under her. Time to castle. With that, Rias was gone and in her place. Satan. Sona's eyes went wide and then she screamed. Spider! You! What the hell is that thing? She screamed, going to her knees. Satan was inching forward slowly, as if playing with his prey. Issei's laugh got more maniacal and louder, and he fell to his knees. Kiba smiled but shook his head, and Akeno began to giggle while smiling. Kaneko smiled and shook her head. Zenobia smiled, but Asia was confused. Why is Issei laughing? Akeno smiled. Issei asked Rias to castle with Satan, because Issei knew Sona was afraid of spiders, and what is worse than a spider? A big one? Asia asked. That is right. Issei has an S side to him, Akeno said. She then her. I like it. It makes me hot. Sona was shaking afraid as Satan drew near. His fangs were only a foot away from her body. She was having trouble breathing, and she was sweating like crazy. It was then she disappeared in a flash of blue. Sona retired. The winner is Rias Gremory. It was the day after the fight. After the fight with Sona, Issei and the others went to relax, though Rias and Akeno went to greet Sona. Sona and her queen also went to greet Rias and Akeno. Issei went to go read, and the others went wherever they went. Anyways, it was the next day and Rias, Issei and her peerage were at the train station, getting a goodbye from Rias's family. Rias's father was talking with Issei. Well then, Issei. I look forward to the day we can meet again. I apologize for the issue we had earlier. You can return here any time without hesitation, okay? Think of the Gremory family as your own, okay? Before Issei could say anything, Rias' mother, Venerana, spoke up. Yes, Issei, please take care of Rias in the human world, okay, since my daughter can be extremely selfish. I worry as a mother, she said with a smile. And mother? What are you saying? Rias said, her face deep red. Issei's was confused. They weren't talking about marriage, but were they talking about protection? Of course I would take care of her, Issei said with a smile. Thank you, said Venerana. About 10 minutes later, everyone boarded the train. Issei took a seat in the back with Azazel, though Azazel sat on the opposite corner. Issei smiled and relaxed against the comfortable seats. That was funny with Satan, Issei, Azazel said with a grin. Thanks. I remembered the day that I was blown up, that Sona was afraid of the small Satan. She tried to kill it. So, I asked Rias to castle for me, which she agreed. I thought it was hilarious. Azazel chuckled and settled in to take a nap. Issei also closed his eyes, relaxing. It was then the train started to move. Rias took a seat next to her queen, Asia sat with Kiba and Zenobia, and Kaneko was walking towards Issei. Issei was shocked awake, actually jumped in his seat, when he felt something sit in his laps. He opened his eyes and looked down, noticing Kaneko was sitting on his lap. She was swishing her tail back and forth, while twitching her cat ears. "K Kaneko?" Issei weakly asked. He was a bit surprised. "Nyan." Kaneko sounded out with a kind of a sing-song tune. She had a smile across her whole face, which melted Issei's heart. So cute, so cute, so cute. Oh God! I am going to die from the cuteness, Issei said. Oh great, I am now going to have naughty thoughts of her, damn it, it's already starting. No! Bad Issei, bad. Rias was scowling unhappily, her eyes narrowed. Akeno was giving off some dangerous pressure with a silent, smiling face, and Asia had very teary eyes. The voice in his head began to laugh. It was toxic. Go ahead. Touch her. All you have to do is touch her, do it, and all your pain will go away. Toxic said, egging Issei on. Shut up. This isn't a game. I will not ruin my friendships. Toxic shut up and was gone. Kaneko sat on his lap the entire ride home. Kaneko turned around, no longer facing him, and sat with her back against his. Cuteness is justice. Issei thought one last though, before he just laid back in his seat. It was when they returned home that everything changed. There was a man with delicate features and a very handsome face. He walked towards Asia, then knelt. Asia Argento, we finally meet. You am. Asia said, confused. So you've forgotten me? We should met that time, the man said, opening his shirt and revealing his. There was a very deep scar. Asia's eyes went wide open when she saw it. Dash. That wound, no, could it be? Yes, my face couldn't be seen back then, but I am the devil from that time. Asia went speechless. My name is Diodora Astaroth. That time you weren't able to treat it so a scar wouldn't form, but you have saved my life due to your sacred gear, he said. Issei then remembered about Asia and her past. All about what happened to her. Issei held some slight anger towards this guy because he caused her past, but he wasn't too angry. It was then Diodora took Azazel's hand and it tenderly. Asia, I came to meet you. I apologize I couldn't greet you at that meeting, but I think the counter between you and I was destiny. I want you to be my wife. I love you. Issei's eye twitched, hearing the man propose to Asia. Summer was over and autumn can begin. And it begins with a marriage proposal. About a month had passed since the raiding game with Sona and the time where Diodora Astaroth first proposed to Asia. During the month, Asia had received many gifts ranging from movie tickets to high-class dinner dates. During this time, however, Asia never once went with him, and Issei told her that if she wants to say no, she can. He also told her that he wants her to stay by his side if that is what she wants as well. It was also during this month that Issei, Rias and her peerage learned that their next opponent in the raiding game was Diodora Astaroth. It was the day of the raiding game and Issei, Rias and her peerage were awaiting the confirmation of the game. They were preparing to transport via magic circle within 5 minutes. It was then Rias got the confirmation, so a magic circle appeared below their feet, taking them to the battle. When they came to the battlefield, it was a spacious place. It looked like a desert. There was canyons and there was also a shrine in the distance. This is strange, where is the arbiter? Rias questioned. She had a look of worry on her face. It was then a white magic circle appeared. The group, minus Issei and Asia, got into their battle stances. What's going on? Wait, why is there more than one? Issei questioned, a bunch of magic circles appearing from all over. Kaya! A cute scream was heard. Issei turned and it was Asia. She was taken into the sky by someone. It was Diodora. Hey Rias Gremory. I shall take Asia Argento with me. You bastard! Put her down right now! Issei demanded. How dare you talk to me, you filthy low-class devil! Diodora stated, spewing venom in his words. This made Issei's right eye twitch. So you are connected to the Cow's Brigade? A scum. And you even defiled the game. Death would be fitting for you. More than that, you tried to take away my adorable Asia away from me. I will not forgive you! Rias exclaimed, her crimson aura surrounding her body as her anger flared. Issei began to cover himself in his black suit, his anger also at an all-time high. Hey, they gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. If I stayed with them, I could do anything I wanted whenever I wanted. Well, struggle as much as you want. I shall become one with Asia while you are busy with them. You know what I mean, right? Diodora said, smiling down at Issei. If you are able to follow me, then come to the depth of the shrine. I will show you something magnificent. Issei launched himself like a slingshot towards Diodora, drawing his fist back for a devastating punch. However, when Issei got there, Diodora and Asia just blurred out and disappeared, though Diodora first hit Issei with a powerful explosive magic power, sending Issei into a rock. Issei got up and roared out angrily, his roar sounding very animalistic. He prepared another slingshot launch. Issei! Help us! Rias exclaimed. However, Issei was already launched towards the shrine, his anger deafening him. Damn it, Issei! It seems Issei has snapped. Akeno mentioned as she fired a bolt of lightning into a group of magic users who appeared, blowing them apart. It was then a figure appeared from the sky, blasting apart a huge group of enemies. It was Odin. Odin! What are you doing here? Saving your sisters. Go after your friend and save your servant. I shall handle it here. Thank you, Odin. Rias and her peerage began to run quickly after Issei, running quickly towards the shrine up ahead. Do you think Issei is okay? Akeno asked. Rias looked at her worried. I am not sure. His anger is clouding him. He is really angry that Diodora would play with Asia like this. They all arrived at the shrine shortly, running into the entrance. Upon entering, they could hear screams of pain and death, though it ended. There was people being killed up ahead. They quickly walked down the path deeper into the shrine with Kiba in the lead. However, he slowed down. Bodies. A lot of them. All female. Kiba pointed out as the peerage slowed down to look. There were 15 total bodies, all of which were female. They either had their throats ripped out or their hearts ripped out of there. There were some without heads, ripped off like it was nothing. This was the work of anger, though it was also done quickly. Rias and her group quickly moved ahead, though they noticed there was a blood trail. However, now they heard a ways up ahead, a male's scream of pain and death. They heard brutal screaming, then an abrupt stop. Then they heard Issei roar in fury, more fury than he has over-roared before. It sounded like whoever he just killed forced him even more into a blind rage. Rias and her team quickly moved faster and began to jog down the hallway before coming upon a brutal, gruesome scene. Freed Selzen. He was dead. His arms and legs were ripped apart. Then there was his torso, ripped in half down like a hot dog. Then his head was ripped off before smashed into the ground. Freed really pissed off Issei, it seemed. What did he tell Issei? What could have he said that would make Issei this furious? Rias questioned, her face in shock. Everyone was shocked at seeing this. Issei came upon a large room, and that was then he saw her. Asia on something. She was restrained on a circular device, while she also had her clothes ripped apart. Her breasts were in clear view, plain sight, and they looked red. Issei, Asia said with a very weak smile and a tear-stained face. Issei ran over quickly to the device and went up to Asia. He no longer had his scary mask on. Asia, what did he do to you? Everything, said Diodora. Issei turned, and there he was. Diodora. Well, not everything. You know what I am like, right? Well, I wanted to feel my new servant, so I played with her a little. She has nice breasts. Issei was no longer in his suit, but he was walking over to Diodora, his eyes filled with anger. Asia, close your eyes. Do not open them. Issei instructed her to do. Issei? Asia asked. It was then Rias and her peerage ran into the large room, running over towards Asia. Do what I said, Asia. You will not like what you are about to see, Issei said as he charged right into Diodora. He slammed his shoulder into Diodora before punching Diodora in the gut. Diodora summoned a demonic dagger and began to slash at Issei, but Issei moved slightly to the side before grabbing the arm. Diodora punched right into Issei's back 3 times, but Issei didn't even flinch. Issei, however, spun around Diodora's dagger arm before bending his arm backwards, forcing Diodora to bend over. Issei pushed down, which then there was an audible crack from his shoulder. Issei then slammed his elbow down, breaking apart the elbow, forcing the bone to come out of the skin. His arm was broken. Diodora began to scream loudly in pain, his eyes wide with fear and pain. Issei kneed him twice in the head before pushing him up onto his feet. Diodora's left arm was hanging at a very unnatural angle. Issei was still pissed off. He sent his fists right into Diodora's throat, cutting off all the screams, forcing Diodora to start to cough. Diodora placed his right hand against his throat while walking backwards. Issei was walking forwards menacingly. Asia had her eyes closed as she listened to everything. Rias and her peerage were busy watching the fight, their faces full of fear at Issei's brutal beatdown. Though Kiba was pulling on the restraints. He isn't even trying to kill him, he is just beating him down. Issei really is scary, Akeno said. Kaneko was watching as well, fear in her eyes. Issei, she said softly. I can't remove these restraints, Kiba stated. Rias woke up. Issei, we can't get off the restraints. Issei kept walking forward before removing the right hand of Diodora from his throat before punching his throat once more. He then sent a fist into his jaw before sending out web shots all over the ceiling and walls, tying up Diodora. I will be back for you, Issei said with anger before running over to the group before putting his suit back on. He quickly shot out 5 webs at the restraints that were located on her wrists, ankles, and on her torso. He quickly began to pull on the webs, walking backwards. The restraints were strong. However, Issei roared with anger before pulling even harder, the restraints creaking until they snapped from the strength of the webbing and Issei's strength. Asia was released. She quickly fell off the device, into the waiting arms of Issei. She gave him a big hug, her bare breasts pressed against his black suit, while he stroked her hair. I knew you would come for me, Issei. I believed in you. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from the truth and everything. It's okay, I have Issei with me, Asia said with a smile. Everyone smiled and gave her a big hug. Alright, Asia, ready to go home? Yes, of course. It was then Asia began to walk with Rias towards the exit, but then she disappeared in a bright white flash. Asia? Rias and Issei exclaimed. Where did she go? Simple. I transported her to the dimension. She will die within minutes, said a male voice. Issei turned around and saw a man dressed in light armor and a cape. He was a young man, but he had experienced eyes, meaning he was old. Who are you? Rias demanded. However, Issei did not give time for the man to explain. Issei roared out and charged into the man, slamming him into the nearby wall. Issei began to attack with a flurry of punches, striking his face over and over and over, while he roared out over and over. His anger flourished. He had his suit on, but not the mask, so everyone could watch as his tears of anger and sorrow poured out. Issei quickly stopped his punches and got off of the man. However, he flipped the man over before placing his foot against the man's right shoulder before pulling up on his arm. He broke the arm. The man screamed in pain, but he quickly sent a blast of demonic energy behind him, getting Issei off of him. He quickly stood up and began to heal his broken right arm, putting it back into place. You filthy low-class devil! How dare you interrupt an old Mao? I am Shalba Beelzebub and you will not get in my way, Shalba said, firing off spears of light and demonic energy at Issei. Issei dodged quickly while approaching before sending a punch into Shalba's throat, before grabbing onto Shalba's shirt. He began to punch and punch into Shalba's face, not letting Shalba get up. Die, 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 Issei repeated over and over, his voice cracked with tears and sobs. He also had anger in his voice. He then stopped his punches before ducking down and grabbing onto Shalba's left leg. He then pulled on it, tripping Shalba onto the ground. Issei placed his right leg over his left leg before pulling back on it and breaking the leg. Issei then sent a punch into Shalba's face, who tried to attack with a spear of light. Shalba was screaming in pain from the broken leg, but Issei quickly broke his right leg the same way, forcing Shalba to scream even louder. Issei grabbed onto Shalba's head before lifting his head and beginning to bash it into the rock behind him over and over, trying to kill Shalba. Shalba, however, grabbed onto Issei's shoulders while screaming in pain and bashing his head filled with magical power right into Issei's head. Issei got up from Shalba, holding his head in pain. Issei's head began to bleed. I heard of someone with your powers. I didn't think you were this strong. It seems I have to leave, but not before using this. Shalba quickly pulled out a dart filled with a liquid before shooting it at Issei. It stuck right in Issei's neck, hitting him right in his jugular vein. Shalba then began to disappear. That is a high-grade pesticide, designed to kill spiders painfully. Goodbye, shitty devil, Shalba said, disappearing in a flash of white. Issei fell to his knees while screaming in pain, before falling to his hands and knees. Rias and her peerage rushing over to Issei's side. Issei was already on his stomach, no longer screaming or moving. There was blood pouring out of his ears, eyes, and nose, which began to pour even more out every second. Kaneko quickly placed her hand against his throat. Is he dead? Rias exclaimed. No, but his breathing is shallow. There is nothing I can do, Kaneko said, her eyes beginning to tear up. It was then everyone began to tear up, falling to their knees. Within Issei's mind, Issei was on his hands and knees. Toxic, can you hear me? Barely Toxic said, in pain as well. Is there any way you can counter this? Yes, but it isn't a great solution, Issei. If I do this, you will not live for another 5 years. You will die within 2. Do you understand? I do, please, I just want to live. Alright, I will release it. You will be forced unconscious, and I will be taking over for a while though. Anyways, I will tell you this, while we still have time. I have kept this a secret, but the radiation from the blast at the nuclear plant was not all gone. There was a bunch that I had to keep in your body, though locked away behind quite a bit of my power. The only way to fight this would be to release the radiation, but it would lower your lifespan by 99%. I'm sorry. Just do it, please. Let me die under better circumstances. Of course. Good night, Isay. Good night, Isay said before collapsing. Rias was sobbing, but it was then Isay stood up in his suit, roaring out in pain. He put his hands on his head, though it was placed back into the mask. He was roaring in pain for about 20 seconds before stopping instantly. He was breathing heavily, panting. Isay? Rias asked. Are you okay? Isay looked at her and smirked. It isn't Isay right now. I guess this is the first time we get to chat, Rias Gremory. Who are you? I am the symbiotic organism that had fused with your precious servant. I am the organism that kept your servant alive at the nuclear power plant. My name is Toxic. Why are you in control? I just saved your servant's life again, though it forced him into a deep sleep. You did? Thank you. Is there anything I can do to repay you? Rias asked, relieved. Don't act so relieved. There was a cost to doing this. What do you mean, cost? What did you do? It doesn't matter. I had to do what had to be done. Isay will die in 2 years max. He will not live past 2 years. I released the radiation I had sealed away, due to the fact that I couldn't remove it. However, the radiation and the pesticide clashed inside Isay's body. The radiation and the pesticide both eliminated each other, but it was at the cost of his lifespan. Do you understand, Rias Gremory? Toxic asked her. Everyone had their eyes wide, shock on their faces. Isay will not live for 2 more years, Toxic said. He then looked over to Diodora. Ah, you're still alive. Please release me, leave me alone. Toxic walked over and smiled at him. I don't think so. Toxic grabbed onto Diodora and removed him from the webbing. He then bent Diodora back a little before prying his open with both hands. Die. Toxic said with an evil grin, closing his. He then opened his and he spat a large gob of green liquid into the open of Diodora. He then rubbed the throat of Diodora before releasing him. Diodora began to scream in pain. His screams were bloody murder. Everyone watched as Diodora fell to his knees, his throat and stomach forming holes. It was like an acid was put into his and he was forced to swallow. He finally fell dead, his body looking like Swiss cheese, though it was still burning him from inside. In the end, he was nothing but a few bones and skin. Only his arms, legs and head remained. Toxic looked over to Rias. Let's go home, Toxic said, walking out of the shrine. Upon exiting a shrine, a distortion in the space appeared. Out came the man in the Chinese armor, Biko. He was carrying Asia. This girl is part of your group, right? Asia! Rias and her group exclaimed, running over to Biko. They quickly grabbed her from Biko, who stood watching them. She's breathing, Akeno stated. Rias turned to Biko, while everything still circled her, though Toxic stood watching. But why did you do this? Vali and I were investigating the dimensional gap around here by chance. We saw this little lady come flying into the gap and Vali said he recognized her, so I decided to be nice and bring her here. Consider it a thank you to your servant for not killing us all. Biko said the last part with a chuckle. Thank you, Biko. Thank you so much, Rias stated, running back to Asia, who was still asleep. It is fine, though why isn't your servant over there saying anything or smiling? Because that isn't Isay right now. It is Toxic, the other side of Isay. The symbiotic organism that combined with him. Ah, interesting. Well, it's time for me to leave. Good day, Biko said before leaving. Toxic, Rias and her peerage, while carrying Asia, left, heading home. Asia was back. It was the night following the battle against Diodora and Shalba. Diodora was dead and a crisis was averted. They were trying to use Asia's powers against the devils by reversing the effect. However, Issei's affection for Asia is what ultimately saved everyone. Isay was so infuriated by Diodora and Shalba's plan that he actually went on a killing spree, killing anything that got in his way. However, the day also ended badly as it did well. Issei Hyoudou has a low amount of lifetime. About 2 years' worth of life is left in him, so he didn't have much time left considering a devil can live over 10,000 years. A devil's life is long. Isay had to find a way to restore his health, if there was such a way. Toxic, Rias and her peerage, minus Asia who was asleep, Azazel and xDoug-Dimmadome-x were sitting in the living room of the Hyoudou household. Toxic was sitting near the ceiling on a web he made, laying on it like it was a hammock. xDoug-Dimmadome-x took one of the recliners and Azazel took the one next to him. Rias and her peerage were located on the 2 couches side by side. So toxic was it? You say he only has 2 years left? xDoug-Dimmadome-x asked. Yes. That is my guess. Azazel looked over to Toxic then at Kaneko. Kaneko. Are you up for saving Issei's lifespan? Kaneko looked up. Yes. I would do anything. Senjutsu is the key. If you can use your healing type Senjutsu on Issei's body, you will be able to heal his lifespan quickly. You are right. Of course. Toxic chuckled. Issei will like that. Toxic said. What do you mean? Rias asked. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. Alright, well now that that is out of the way, I wanted to tell you guys that everyone is invited to a television studio for interviews. xDoug-Dimmadome-x said. Everyone but xDoug-Dimmadome-x, Azazel and Toxic gasped. An interview? Why? Rias asked. Because you guys are rising young devils, strong and powerful at your young age. The underworld wants to get to know you and I think it's a great idea. Wow. I can't believe it. I don't know what to say. Rias said. The interview will be next weekend. Have a good night. xDoug-Dimmadome-x said before disappearing in a flash of red light. Azazel also got up. Well, I shall get some sleep. Good job today though, you guys make me proud. Good night. Azazel said before walking out the door. Toxic smiled. I will sleep here tonight. Issei should be awake by tomorrow morning. Good night, Toxic. Thank you, Rias said before everyone left. Toxic sighed and relaxed in his hammock, before falling asleep as well. It was then the suit went back into Issei's body. Unknown to Issei, having Toxic release the power he had to use to keep the radiation at bay, made him much stronger than before. It was the next morning and Issei was still asleep. It was already 10 in the morning, but he was busy sleeping peacefully, and it seemed someone came in at night and put a pillow under his head. He was sleeping in a corner of the room, sleeping in the air near the ceiling on a web. Rias walked up to him. Issei? Are you okay? Issei began to groan and grumble, but he opened his eyes sleepily. He looked at Rias then let out a huge yawn before sitting up and jumping down. The web then dissolved into nothing. He was dressed in his old clothes, so he knew he needed to take a shower. However, he walked with Rias into the kitchen and dining room, so he could eat some breakfast. He sat down at the table with everyone, his breakfast already placed before him. Issei bowed his head and said thank you to everyone before digging into his meal. It was then the doorbell rang. Issei stood up from the table with a piece of bacon in his, chewing on it while he went to the door. He opened it, and it was an old man with a long white beard and another man. This man was gruff-looking, middle-aged and had a very muscular body. He looked like a very serious type. Can I help you? Issei said, swallowing his bacon first. Issei, who is it? Rias yelled out from the dining room. A very old-looking man and another man who looks like a bodyguard for the president. I think they must have the wrong house. Issei yelled back to her. Oh. Let them in. I am expecting them, Rias said. Okay. Issei said, looking down at the old man with a very curious gaze. Come on in, Issei said, walking away from the entrance to the door, offering his home to them. The 2 men walked into the house, saying thank you as they passed. So, who are you 2? Rias and her peerage came around the corner, and Rias smiled. Welcome, Odin, to our home. Yes, thank you, Rias Gremory. It is a lovely home. Are you here to talk about the mission in a couple days? A little. I really just wanted to come to visit Japan for a while. It was then Azazel came in through the locked front door. Odin. You are here early. Welcome, Barakil, Azazel said. Barakil nodded. How did you get in my house? Issei asked, looking at Azazel with suspicion. Azazel gave him a very wicked smile, but he looked at Odin again. Ah, Azazel. I wanted to come visit Japan for a while. Ah, is there any places you would like to go? A breast pub. Oh, you got some great taste. Hell yeah! Let us go right now then. Young girls from my organization opened up a shop in this town recently, just for VIPs. I will invite you there. Yo ho 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 ho. To be expected from Azazel. Prepare me a big breasted on right away. I am going to grope many of them. Issei, Rias and her peerage, minus Akeno who was looking very unhappy, put on very awkward faces. Like an OG's face. Follow my lead then, geezer. Welcome to Japan. Do you want to untie their kimono, Obi? That is something you must do at least once when you come to Japan. I will show you how the Japanese do things. I can't wait for it, Odin said. Odin and Azazel were both heated up like perverted men and began to leave the room. It was then Azazel turned around. Hey, Issei. Wanna come along? Azazel said, giving him a very lecherous face. I'm good, Issei said with a smile. Your loss. Suit yourself, Azazel said, leaving with Odin. It was then Akeno was approached by the other man, who looked at her. Akeno didn't even look at him. Akeno, I would like to talk with you, the man said, walking away. Akeno followed, though she didn't look very happy about it. They went into the kitchen. Rias and her peerage, minus Issei, left the area to do whatever in the large house of theirs. Isay, while knowing it was wrong, followed Akeno and Barakiel, hiding behind an open door near the kitchen. That is when he listened. Don't casually say my name, Akeno said with a sharp and cold voice. She had a very unpleasant face on instead of her usually smiley face. What is the meaning of this? Why am I hearing you are seeing that bug? This is my life. Why do I have to have you comment about this? I've been hearing rumors. That is he a shameless insect that fights because he loves women's breasts. Bug insect? Who the heck is he talking about? Issei wondered as he listened and watched from the little crack in the door where it meets the wall. I am worried about you. I am worried that you are receiving embarrassing treatments. Do not talk to him like that. Issei is a kind and dependable man. So you have to judge people by rumors and gossip. You are the absolute worst, and like I thought, I cannot do something like forgiving you. Wait, I'm a bug and an insect. That isn't very nice. I am a spider, which is an arachnid. There is a difference. So this is her father. This is the man responsible for all of the pain she has suffered through. I am saying this as a father. Do not act like a father, Akeno yelled out. She was furious and upset. Why didn't you come for me back then? You left mother to die. Barakiel went silent and his eyes drooped. It was then Akeno turned and she looked right into the crack of the door. Issei, were you listening? Damn it. Issei sighed and came out from the door, feeling very awkward. Upon coming out, Barakiel looked pissed off, seeing Issei. Ah! Shameless. Like I thought, the rumors about you targeting women's breasts are true. I will not allow you to see each other, you shameless eavesdropping bastard, Barakiel yelled out, while his body began to sparkle with holy lightning. It was then Issei got into a fighting stance. However, Akeno went between Barakiel and Issei, embracing him as if she was protecting him. Do not touch him. Please don't take away this person from me. He is someone who is necessary for me. That is why disappear from here. You are not my father! Akeno screamed out. Barakiel, upon hearing that, stopped his holy lightning and closed his eyes. He looked very sad. Sorry, Barakiel said before leaving. Akeno? Akeno just hugged Issei tighter, as if she was holding some feeling inside of her she couldn't tell him. I beg you, don't say anything, let me stay like this for a short while please, Issei. Her voice was trembling with a cry. Issei just shut up and gave her a hug back. 4 days later, it was a Saturday. There was no school for the next couple of weeks for the Gremory team, thanks to devil business. Issei, Rias and her peerage, Barakiel, Odin and Azazel were all riding in or on a carriage being pulled by 2 horses which was flying through the air. This is a separate dimension, which looks like Tokyo, Azazel explained as he and Issei sat on the roof. Issei was looking over the edge, amazed. There were no people, but the city looked like it was somewhat alive. There was buses moving about, cars moving out, and trains in the distance moving around. They were being driven by nothing but magic. It was awesome. We are using this as a way to get through the city to the meeting without being spotted, and also just in case someone tries to stop us. There will be no human causalities. Magic is awesome, Issei said with a laugh. It was then the carriage stopped suddenly. Azazel looked up, and that is when his eyes got very serious. He see his. Issei actually fell off of the carriage, tumbling to the ground. They were high up in the air, high enough to get to the top skyscrapers. Everyone climbed out of the carriage, and that is when everyone got serious looking. Hello everyone. It is to meet you. My name is Loki. I am an evil god of Northern Europe. Hello everyone. It is to meet you. My name is Loki. I am an evil god of Northern Europe. If it isn't Loki to meet you in a place like this, I assume you have some business with us? Azazel asked calmly. Loki just crossed his arms and spoke calmly as well. Yes, I do. You see, our chief god left our organization to get in touch with other factions, and that is very painful to endure, Loki declared. Sensei got a bit angry. You are quite arrogant to say that up front, Loki. Loki began to laugh with enjoyment, hearing what Azazel said. Ha ha ha, if this isn't the governor of the fallen angels, Azazel. Normally, I wouldn't want to meet you or the devils, but it can't be helped. Along with Odin and the others, you shall receive my punishment. So it is okay for you to get in touch with other factions? That is contradictory. It is okay if it is to destroy other factions. I do not agree about having peace. It is your religion which stepped foot on our soil and spread your Bible after all. You know there is no point in saying that to me. Say that to Michael, or the deceased god from the Bible, Azazel replied. Either way, it's a problem for the chief god Odin to negotiate with the gods of the Far East. We won't be able to have the day of Ragnarok. So what is it you wish to obtain by trading for the information regarding Yggdrasil? Azazel pointed his at Loki and asked a question. Are your actions connected with the Cow's Brigade? Not that I can believe you, since you were never a god who would answer honestly. I feel sickened you would mix my opinions with those foolish terrorists. I came here of my own free will, and Ophis has nothing to do with this, Loki replied without a care. I understand now, geezer. This is the problem that the North faction carries, huh? There are still hard-headed people, and that is the current situation we are facing. There are fools like this one who come out like this. Odin, do you still plan on continuing with something which is outside of our Norse world? Yup. Talking to Xerxes and Azazel is 10,000 times more interesting than talking with you. I want to know about Japanese Shinto, and they also have an interest in our Yggdrasil. After we make peace, I am thinking I want to exchange our cultures. I have confirmed your plans, such a foolish act. So, let us have a display of powers here then, Loki declared. It was then everyone felt chills down their back. So I can take that as a declaration of battle then, right? Take it as however you want it to be, Loki smirked. Azazel smiled at him. So be it. Go ahead, Isay. It was then Loki was smashed from below, but a black figure. Loki was sent flying into the air from the blow, and it was Isay. Isay came from below and slammed both feet into Loki's jaw, sending Loki into the air. Isay then latched onto a skyscraper nearby before shooting two webs out, latching onto Loki's feet. He then jumped off the building, dragging Loki to the ground with him. Due to the yanking, Loki fell faster and Loki smashed into a parked car while Isay calmly landed on a van across the street. Cheap shot, Loki stated, climbing off the car. He then spotted Isay dressed in his Venomous outfit. What the hell are you supposed to be? You remind me of one of those comic book heroes from the West. I'm your opponent. That is what I am supposed to be, Isay said with a wicked smile, showing off his teeth. Are you? Well then, let us see what you got, Loki said, summoning a spear. Isay charged. Rias had a look of worry on her face and she began to fly down towards Isay. However, Azazel held her back. Let me go. We need to help him. Let him do it alone. You cannot do anything to Loki and you will just be getting in his way. Realize the limit of your power, Rias, Azazel said calmly. But that is a god. Isay cannot do this on his own. Isay is not as weak as you make him out to be. Issei can handle Loki just fine. Odin flew over as well, standing on the other side of Rias. I agree with Azazel. That child has become even stronger since the game with the Citri group. His strength has increased exponentially, and he has become close to that of a god. Ah, you didn't know this, Odin, but Issei is fused with an alien organism that actually has its own conscience. Issei was fatally injured in the fight against Diodora and the terrorists, but the aliens saved him, but it was at the cost of his lifespan. However, with this he has also gotten all of the power granted to him by the symbiote, which increases the stats of the user's own body. It's an enhancer. Issei trains his body every day so he becomes stronger every day. Interesting. Have you found a way to heal his lifespan? I think so. We are going to use the Gremory Senjutsu user to heal his lifespan bit by bit. Ah, very smart. Are you sure Issei can handle himself against Loki? Rias asked. Her peerage were behind the three. Barakiel was next to Azazel. Yes. The young man is not god level just yet, but due to the nature of his fighting style, he and Loki match up evenly. Always take into account skill level, young lady. Your servant will be fine. They all watched as Issei and Loki exchanged blows, though Loki was just swinging a spear around, trying to hit Issei. The spear was not doing anything but missing. Issei ducked another swing of the spear in which he used his webs and tripped up the god, before swinging Loki into the parked van. Loki dropped his spear upon impact with the van, but Issei wasn't finished. Issei yanked Loki off the van and into the air, in which Issei released the web before jumping into the air. He did a flying clothesline, sending Loki into the ground. As Loki began to stand up, he was hit in the face by a cannonball-sized ball of web, attached to a line of web. Loki was sent into the air doing multiple F before Issei swung over and grabbed him in midair. He swung him over the street and slammed Loki into light pole before Loki hit a parked car below. Issei did a backflip and landed on a street pole across the street, hanging off the edge. Loki spat out some blood, while he had a big grin on his face. Wow, there is someone who actually can give me a challenge besides my father. Heh, well then let us continue. Issei slingshot himself off of the light pole with a foot stretched out, attempting to hit Loki in the face. However, Loki grabbed his foot and began to swing him round and round before tossing him into the path of a moving bus. Issei was struck by the moving bus, which was going at its top speed through the city street, but Issei swung back over to Loki. Issei used a web shot while swinging over and grabbed onto a bench. He then swung the bench into Loki's side, which did nothing to Loki whatsoever. Loki aimed his hand and hot out a block of magical power, which Issei barely dodged in midair. Loki jumped into the air and grabbed Issei by his arms before slamming him into a brick building. He held Issei and attempting to send a punch into Issei's face, but Issei quickly shot out some webbing, covering Loki's eyes, nose, and making the punch miss Issei's head. Issei put his foot onto the building and kicked out, slamming his knee right into Loki's chin, which forced Loki to stumble as he struggled a bit to take the webbing off. However, he removed the webbing, but not before another cannonball-sized wrecking ball made of web came from the sky and smacked Loki in the back of the head, which sent Loki right into the brick wall. Issei was right there now, getting up right behind Loki and sending his fist right into his ribs over and over. Loki sent his foot back, which Issei caught just barely in time before it hit his crotch. Issei yanked Loki out of the brick wall, which forced a huge chunk of brick wall out. Issei then tossed Loki into another parked car while Issei quickly ran over to Loki, who was getting up. Issei ran over and attempting an uppercut, but Loki moved his body to the side before sending a punch into the side of Issei's left leg, forcing Issei down onto one knee. Loki then did an elbow drop onto Issei's back before picking him up by his shoulders and slamming him onto the ground below. Issei was on the ground now, on his back. Time to end this, Loki stated, summoning the spear to him. He then attempting a downward stab, but Issei shot out his webbing and slingshot himself through the legs of Loki, sending him to the ground. As Loki got up, Issei swung in from behind and hit Loki with a very brutal haymaker from the air, forcing Loki to spit out some blood, but not before Issei came in and kicked Loki right in the face, sending him up onto his feet and staggering back. Issei was right on top of him, hooking his arm around Loki's right shoulder and arm. Issei then sent his right fist over and over into Loki's face while forcing their way back towards the other end of the street. Loki grabbed Issei's right hand, in which Issei did a headbutt into Loki, but Loki just did one back, sending Isay staggering back while holding onto his head. Loki summoned the spear to him and charged Isay, smacking Isay in the gut with the shaft of the spear, sending Isay to bend over. Isay was then struck in the face with the shaft before Loki hit Isay's right leg with the shaft, forcing Isay to fall to his knees. Loki then did a Spartan kick to Isay's face, forcing Isay on the ground. Loki then aimed the spear at Isay's head and sent it straight down. Isay, however, grabbed onto the shaft of the spear while holding onto the spear, trying to keep it away from his face. Loki and Isay were both tired. They were exhausted from their constant battling, but it wasn't over yet. Not until one of them falls. Isay was struggling against the spear, which was being moved closer and closer to Isay's forehead, while Isay struggled against it. Isay was just not strong enough. However, Isay quickly moved the spear to his right, which then slammed into the ground. Isay sent out a web to Loki's before pulling him down. Isay then sent his foot twice into Loki's face before covering Loki in another webbing, though this one had a lot more webbing. As Loki began to tug at the webbing, pulling it off slowly, Isay began his barrage. He sent a fist into Loki's gut and his face and began to just attack with a flurry of punches, just getting a ton of attacks in as he could. Loki pulled off the webbing and grabbed onto Isay's left hand, which came in for a punch. Isay sent his right, which was caught by Loki as well. Loki held onto Isay and began to force Isay to his knees. Loki had blood coming out of his nose and his nose broken. Once Isay was on his knees, Loki quickly sent his knee up into Isay, releasing Isay as well. Isay was hit in the face by the knee, which broke several of his teeth. Loki then summoned 5 magic circles with equations on them before firing each of them at once. Isay was hit full force by the magic, blowing apart the entire suit, forcing out quite a bit of blood from his and sending him into the air, straight into a parked garage. Loki wiped his of his blood and walked over to his spear, picking it up. "I am a god, you silly devil. You cannot hope to defeat me," Loki said, though it wasn't with confidence. Loki had slight relief in his voice, meaning he actually feared Isay a bit. Loki then looked up and noticed that Rias was being held back by Isay, her body shaking and racking with sobs. Loki sent her a grin, but then he heard a crash behind him. He turned around quickly. "Red punch buggy," said Isay, who was out of the garage, back in his black suit, holding up a red Volkswagen Beetle. Isay swung the car right into Loki, sending him flying across the street and into a parked semi which was carrying gasoline. Isay then threw the car right at Loki and the truck. No punch back. As the car flew, Loki had his eyes wide open in fear as once the car hit, the truck blew up. Out of the flames came a figure, and it landed right in the street in front of Isay. It was Loki, who slowly began to stand, though he vomited up quite a bit of blood. However, he was not done yet. This was a god. Isay quickly went in and delivered a brutal uppercut, right into his before delivering tornado kick right into Loki's face. Loki was sent staggering back, but as Isay came at him with a haymaker, Loki used his right arm to block his left and grabbing onto Isay's throat with his left. Loki looked at Isay with anger and fear. "How can someone like you stand up to me? What are you? Ugh. It doesn't matter. I will have you die now." Isay gave him a smile and began to chuckle as Loki summoned his spear to him. "What's so funny? Do you know why parents tell their children not to play in the road?" Isay asked. "What?" Loki asked, confused at what the heck he was talking about. Isay quickly sent a web right into Loki's face before grabbing onto Loki's arm with his legs and beginning to bend the arm of Loki, attempting to break it. All it did though was force Loki to let go, but this was what Isay wanted. "It's because they could get run over." Isay sent a Spartan kick into Loki's, making him stumble backwards as he struggled to pull off the webbing. As Loki finally got his vision back, he turned for a moment, and he was struck by a semi. He was forcing onto the ground as he was being run over by 9 of the 18 wheels. However, there was more. A small car and a pickup truck were behind it, so he was hit by all 8 of the wheels. Loki was on the ground now, defeated. He was beaten by automobiles. Loki was very weak and moaning in pain, blood coming out of his in a steady stream. Loki looked up at Isay. How did you beat me? What are you? Who are you?" "My name is Issei Hyoudou. I am pawn of Rias Gremory. I am also known as Venomous. I was bitten by a spider, got spider powers, then I fused with an alien organism known as Toxic. How did I beat you? Because I listened to the adults. Never play in the street. Issei yelled out before sending a punch right into Loki's temple, knocking him out. As Azazel, Barakiel, Odin, Rias and her peerage flew down to Isay, they watched as Isay fell to his knees then collapsed onto the ground onto his back. His suit was also gone, back into his body. His teeth were fine, as it was only his venomous persona that had the broken teeth. Azazel quickly went over to Isay and began to check his body. Oh wow, he fought with 12 broken ribs and a punctured lung. He also lost a lot of blood. He was fighting on pure adrenaline, I think. Asia, can you help? Yes. Asia said, running over and healing Isay with her green light. Azazel then turned to Odin, who was sealing Loki up. So, it is finally over. Isay was able to defeat Loki. Barely. I think if this was a different environment, Isay would have lost. He only won because he used the environment to his benefit. He has great battlefield strategy, but he was just not yet able to fight on par with Loki. I guess it was good he didn't take us to a different dimension, Odin said as he rubbed his white beard. Rias, Akeno, Kaneko and Zenobia were all kneeling right next to Isay, all of them with tears in their eyes. Asia also had tears. They all thought he had died from the massive explosion from the magic attack from a god. Kiba had a tear as well, but it was wiped away quickly. Asia stopped her green light then smiled. I have done all I can. I can't replenish his lost blood or stamina. There isn't any more I can do. I'm sorry. Don't apologize, Asia. Thank you. Alright guys, let's go home, Rias said as Kaneko picked up Isay in her arms. She carried him like a princess and with that they took him home. However, Kiba, Zenobia, Azazel and Barakiel stayed with Odin and took them to the meeting. It was the afternoon after the fight with Loki. Isay was in his bed in his room, stirring awake. He was alone in the room, so the other girls were not there as they usually were. Isay began to awaken, his eyes fluttering open as he groaned softly, as if waking up for him was unwanted. However, he woke up. Oh man, did someone get the number on that 747? Isay said, sitting up and rubbing his eyes. He sat there on his bed, staring at the ground while having his feet hanging off the edge of the bed for about 5 minutes before standing up. He lifted up his arm and gave it a sniff. He yawned loudly and went over to his dresser, grabbing another day worth of clothes. Isay opened up his door and made his way to the elevator before pressing the floor for the bath, which was the first basement floor. Once he arrived, he quickly looked out to make sure he wasn't interrupting, which he wasn't, then undressed himself, placing his dirty clothes in the hamper marked for him. He then placed his new clean clothes on the rack near the wall before walking into the hot water. As his feet hit the water, he let out a satisfied groan and his groans got more intense as he got deeper and deeper into the water. Ah, hot bath. So what I needed, Isay said, closing his eyes and letting out a huge smile. However, he began to fall asleep and with that, he went back to dreamland, soaking in the hot water of the tub. Isay, is something wrong? Said Rias, who came outside to look. She looked worried. I'm fine. I just need to be alone, Isay said before he started to sprint away, running away from the house as fast as he could. When Rias came out of the gate to see where he went, he was already out of view. Gone. Rias walked back into the house and shut the door, wearing a very confused and worried face. What's the matter, Rias? Akeno asked. I'm not sure. Isay looked very uncomfortable, hurt, and unconfident. I think that's what it was. Something is on his mind, Rias said, looking at everyone with concern. Should we go after him? Asia asked. No, I think we should leave him alone, Rias replied. It was then they saw Kaneko enter the living room, dressed in a thin kimono while heading to the front door. Oh hey Kaneko. Where are you going? Rias asked. Out, Kaneko said as she left the house. Rias looked at everyone with confusion, not really understanding anything. Everyone looked a bit confused, except Azazel, who was quietly chuckling. What's so funny, Azazel? Asia asked. Oh? It's nothing, Azazel said, smiling. Isay was inside the school, located in the science lab that was in the basement of the school. This was a science lab that handled the many dangerous sciencey things, like explosives, acids, and other experiments. This was meant only for the students who do the higher-up classes, like honor classes. Issei was given access to this on his first day, do all his work in his other school. Isay was busy playing with a couple chemicals, mixing them beakers and such. He was also pouring some chemicals into thin metal containers with some sort of string or wire that was on the top and went into the container. The containers he was making were more of cylinders which were not very wide but were about 6 inches tall. He had a total of 10 cylinders already filled with the chemicals and he had 10 more cylinders waiting to be filled. He was enjoying himself as he had a smile on his face, enjoying the science. As he got to his last 2 cylinders he heard the door open and close, before he heard the lock. He turned his head and saw that it was Kaneko who entered the lab, though she was leaning against the door, with a red face on. Issei quickly gulped, and went back to his work, hoping she didn't come in here for him. He began to pour the chemicals into the cylinders carefully. As he finished putting the lid onto the cylinders, he felt a pair of arms wrap around from behind him and a head pressed against his back. Issei put the cylinders together in the corner of the table against the wall before removing Kaneko from around him. She looked at him hurt, but he put his up to wait. Issei began to undress himself, removing the bomb suit from his body, revealing his pajama clothes. Issei was wearing an explosive suit, meant to protect against potential blast waves and fragments. He put the suit up in its locker before turning to Kaneko. He looked at her, his eyes full of hurt and confusion. "What do you want, Kaneko?" Issei asked, looking at the ground. "You mean you don't see it?" Kaneko asked him a question instead. "See what?" "There is nothing to see." "You mean you do not notice the other girls after you?" "I've had girls after me before. I have went on many dates before I met you guys. You know that each time, those dates were for different reasons? I had a girlfriend before. For 5 months you know the only reason she asked me out is because her friends dared her?" "That's right. I even pulled out all the stops," Issei said, now looking at Kaneko. "I bought her dinner, gifts, I went out with her to movies which I paid for, I did so many things. We barely even, and I've only had one with her on the. She told me to get lost, literally. She told me to get lost, and she only dated me because she lost a bet. I've also had more dates than that one, but each time it was because I was the smartest person in the school. I would be able to do their homework for them, or help them pass a test," Issei said. Kaneko said nothing, but her eyes and ears were drooped, saddened. Issei began to walk away from her, not wanting to deal with any of this, but she grabbed his wrist and held him beside her. "Let go," Issei asked. Kaneko shook her head. She then pushed him against the wall before grabbing onto his pajama shirt and pulling him down to her. As he came down, she slammed her onto his, forcing her into his open and shocked. His eyes were wide as Kaneko ravaged his, her exploring his. As she released him about 10 seconds later, there was a small thread of saliva hanging between there. As he was released from the epic from the tiny and usually emotionless girl, he opened his as if to say something but closed it. His face was very confused and he was blinking rapidly, as if trying to recollect what was happening. He was also now sitting on the ground against the wall. It was then Kaneko climbed into his lap and held on to him, releasing a warm feeling from her body, and Issei knew it wasn't natural. "I'm releasing my ki into your body. I do not want you to die. I know about your lost lifespan, so I want to help repair it." "Kaneko, It's okay. I want to do this, Isay. I love you," Kaneko said, looking up at him with her adorable face. She also had love and adoration in her eyes and on her face. "Kaneko, I love you too, but I can't. I know I wasn't first. It doesn't matter who was here first, but I can't just choose one and forsake the others. I'd rather say no to everyone. I'm sorry." "Then take them all," Kaneko said, beginning to cry. "Just don't leave me. Don't forsake me like my sister," she sobbed out, burying her head into his. She was letting out all her feelings and he was just rejecting her. Issei lifted her face up and pressed his against her own, giving her a deep, passionate, though no s. It was just that showed that he loved her. When they departed, Kaneko no longer had tears in her eyes. "I would never forsake you. I would never leave you. Are you sure this is what you want?" "I know what I want, but what do you want?" "You," Kaneko said softly as she buried her head into the crook into his neck and began to lick at his neck like a cat. It was a cat's way of saying I love you and I trust you. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the xDoug-Dimmadome-x for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.